Okay, good evening, everyone. For those who are joining us in person, welcome back. This is our first meeting in person since we tried this once in August. Could you have to mute your speaker on that one? That's okay. We're still working out the bugs. We will be going forward in a hybrid mode. So let me start. I'm calling, this is the regular meeting of the Flemington Borough Planning Board for Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Both adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by way of publication in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News newspapers on or about March 17th, 2022. In addition, notice of the meeting was posted on the door of the Borough of Flemington Municipal Building here at 38 Park Avenue, and any handicap accessible entrances there too, posted on the municipal website, provided to the municipal clerk and distributed to all persons, if any, requesting copies of same. This meeting is being recorded with both audio and video and may be rebroadcast. This meeting is a judicial proceeding, and any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are, lost my space. Issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. I'm going to ask everyone please to rise as you are able for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Can we please call, before we call the roll, I just want to make a note for the record. Council member Kaylin Giles McCormick, as many of you already know, has given her resignation from council, which was effective on Friday. And so at the moment, we do not have a class 3 member of the board. That will get remedied by council when it gets remedied by council. So if we could just call the roll then.
Mayor Driver?
Yeah.
Mr. Campion, I do not see. I think he was going
to try to call it, but I don't see it. Is that you on a phone there, Mike? I think I'm gonna promote him there. All right. Is that his phone number there? All right, well, let's call the rest of the roll. Let's see.
Mr. Joshua?
Here.
Mrs. Engelhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Cook? He's absent. Mr. Budney?
Here.
Ms. Giffin is excused. Ms. Weitzman? Yes. Mr. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Mr. Levitt?
Here.
Ms. Kaczynski? Here. Mr. Clerico?
Here.
Ms. McManus? Here. Mr. Calvin?
Here.
Thank you.
Mike
Rick.
Campion is here.
We got you, Mike. Thank you.
And Mike is
Right. Like I said, we're working this out. We will be proceeding in the future with hybrid meetings, where primarily we will have meetings in person here again in Borough Hall, but we want to make sure we have access for as many participants as possible, whether it's a board member, members of the public, or anyone else to participate. So I will say, just for the record, the meeting is here. And if the technology fails, I'm sorry. We're going to try to make it work as best we can. There is a podium, there's a table there for the laptop that's already logged into the Zoom meeting. Anyone who is providing testimony as an item on the agenda will use that spot to sit there. They can use that laptop to share any digital materials, that microphone, and there's a camera on there that will then get broadcast so that participants who are participating remotely will get to see and hear you. Anything you do share, as well as your image as a witness, will be on that screen for members of the public to see nice and big, as well as that screen for members of the board to see nice and big. So I see that we have someone on the agenda with an easel. You may not need it going forward. I apologize, we didn't tell you that before you hold it in from the car. We're going to try to do as much digital as possible to make it as easy for everybody, as well as for people who are participating remotely, but also just cost for our applicants is certainly easier to do that. So that's housekeeping. I know it's not on the agenda, but it's housekeeping. I'm using chair prerogative here to get started. As always, since this is a public meeting, our first item, as always, is opportunity for public comments. Since we are still in this hybrid mode. I'm just going to make sure, did we receive anything by snail mail, email, or voicemail?
No, not to my office.
Okay, if there are any members of the public who wish to speak, we're going to ask them to do so at the time, and we're going to use that microphone, that standing microphone. If you could please come up and identify yourself, name and address for the record. Lois, please. And we're going to, and just to let everyone know that our rules for 3 minutes for public comment. It's over there. Oh, can ask it.
Lois Stewart, Flemington Borough.
What's your specific address, Lois, just for the record?
Well, do you want 26 Spring Street or do you want 32 Emery?
I'll take either one.
Well, that's on both places.
Perfect, thank you.
I would like to have somebody bring me up to date on the master plan.
That's your comment?
Yes, I'm seeking information about the master plan because
We're going to cover that under chair items.
you will.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before we start, we just do the general.
Thank you.
All right.
And before, Jay, can you click on that blue got it so that we can get rid of it? Thank you.
Okay, before we start, is there any matter on the agenda that any board member feels they have a direct or indirect personal or pecuniary interest in, or feel that they cannot participate in any particular matter, unbiased or for any other reason? Okay.
Sure, I have a public comment. Can I slow down?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please. Again, please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Christina Busamera. I'm 11 New York Avenue. I have something to read based on a concern that we have as a resident. Good evening, members of the planning board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Christina Busamera, a resident of 11 New York Avenue. My purpose is to voice some concerns about the Calvary Episcopal Church Annex located directly across the street from our property. An article from NJ.com states that a homeless shelter for 4 families will be implemented as early as May of this year. It explains that the church has partnered with the nonprofit organization Family Promise of Hunterdon County to repurpose this building as a homeless shelter. It further states that up to 14 people will share 1 bathroom and 1 kitchen in a single family residence. According to the article, 3 families, including 7 children, have a space already reserved in the shelter. We found it very concerning to read the details in this article. After reading through the board minutes of the last year, we were unable to find any information about this matter documented in the town. Therefore, we'd like to ensure that the planning board is aware of this matter. It seems to me that the annex is not developed for multi-family residence or a shelter. Additionally, as a resident, we were not notified of the plan to repurpose the annex, and it directly affects our home value as we live right across the street. Our neighbors have similar concerns after reading the article, and we ask the board to further examine the plan for the annex and provide clarity to the local residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to speak? Yeah, please. Again, name and address. for the
Yes.
record.
Good evening, Dr. Dosh, Mayor, and planning board members, Ricky Hassan, 438 Millstone River Road, Belmead, Montgomery Township. I'm the chair of the Landmarks Preservation Commission in Montgomery. I just came tonight in order to support the HPC in their CLG application, and this is a great opportunity for Flemington Borough for historic preservation and Hunterdon County altogether. That's all.
Can I ask you a
Thank you.
question? Are you also reporting on this meeting?
I don't know yet.
All right, any other members of the public wish to speak? If there's anyone, I see one person on Zoom, so I'm going to recognize, it says Jenna Van Holten. If you could, I'm going to allow to speak. If you could, again, give your name and address for the record.
Yeah, hi, this is Jenna Van Holten, 2 Clearbrook Lane.
Could you repeat the address? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could just repeat your address, it got muffled.
Please.
Yes, 2 Clearbrook Lane.
Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, we are actually here exactly a year ago discussing the garden at Tuckamorgan Park. I'm curious what the status is on that. And then another question, I did email about this, but no one got back to me. Regarding the redevelopment of Liberty Village, I'm curious how the township chose Hoboken Brownstone Company. What criteria was used to select this firm? Again, I wasn't able to find the information online. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I just for clarification, both, your letter was read into the record at our prior meeting, just so that you know
Okay.
that. Our issues about the Liberty Village area as well as the garden, those are best for council, and I would suggest you bring it to council. Those are not planning board matters at the moment. So just so that you understand who you can go ask those to. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Thank you all. We'll move to item 2 on the agenda. Mayor comments?
Very little. Liberty Village Committee is meeting and we're trying to hash out a redevelopment agreement. There are some difficulties we're getting into, which I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get settled. That has to do with infrastructure contribution by the developer. Additionally, Nilkamp property, as you may know, if you follow council, the designated redeveloper was named at a recent council meeting. We had a very brief meeting today just with attorneys and the developer, myself, the planner, just to kind of talk about some procedural issues and kind of penciling in dates for meetings and how it's gonna have to be an amended redevelopment plan for that. As you may recall, the overall redevelopment plan had to do, it encompassed both sides of the property, including the side that's before this board this evening, and then there's the other side. So I'm talking about the other side. So there's gonna have to be an amended redevelopment plan. And again, the redevelopment agreement, and there'll be a financial study before we come to a financial agreement. So that's starting to inch forward as well. And I expect that it will, once we start meeting regularly, once that committee starts meeting regularly, it will move pretty quickly.
I have
And that's all I
a
have.
quick question for you, Mayor. Caitlin was on the Liberty Village Committee, correct?
Correct.
Has her position been replaced yet?
Not at this point.
Okay.
All right, and item 3 is council comments. As I mentioned before, Caitlin has stepped off council, and so I did not get anything from her before her resignation date on Friday, so I don't know if there's anything else to share there. HPC, I do want to, folks did get resolutions for 144 Main Street and 41 Pennsylvania Avenue. Those were circulated previously. And I know we have an HPC item coming up, and I see Mr. Giffin here, so we're gonna hold on for that until one other item on the agenda first. But I don't think there's anything else from HPC other than that. Okay. So moving on to item 5, approval of our minutes from the March 8th meeting. Those were previously circulated. Can I get a motion in a second on the minutes?
Driver moves.
Let me second.
Any discussion, clarification on the minutes? Corrections? Okay, call roll please.
Mayor Driver,
Yes.
Mr. Budney,
Yes.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Mrs. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Ms. Weitzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Levitt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna call on Richard Giffin at this point, who's a member of our Historic Preservation Commission. Richard, if you could come up to that seat there so that we can make sure that we get you on camera.
Okay.
Do you need to share anything, or is that just?
Well, I was gonna ask you, I did send that document to you. Did you, I can share it on my laptop here, or you, if you can share it.
Well, here's how we're gonna have to do this, so that folks who are participating remotely can see. If you need to share something, I need you to use that laptop.
Okay.
Or I could also let you know that everyone in the planning board got this already.
Okay, all right.
So I don't know if you need, if it's
No, it's
critical.
really, I'm not sure whether the public needed to see it, but,
I mean, I would prefer if you could share it on that laptop just for everyone's ability, but if that's,
it's not easy for me to do.
all right,
It's
then
like
it's,
2 minutes.
it's not a visual, I think. we're
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, I have a few copies here. If you all got one, maybe I can leave it.
And if I could ask if you wouldn't mind sitting there so that you could be seen on camera and use that microphone. I know this is
Okay, that's fine.
people's
I'm-
style, but
It's good to be back in person, so I'm happy to.
we're trying to make sure that everybody,
Oh, I'm on the camera here.
you're on camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you could, I just, I think, Ms. Stewart wants a copy. If you could, again, I'm just introducing Richard Giffin's a member of the HPC. Do we need anything else for the record? Okay,
Can I just add something? At the beginning of your HPC section, you had mentioned the 144 Main Street,
Yeah.
but you did not mention
Yeah, I did.
41. Oh, you
41
did?
West Main.
I didn't even hear it, and I'm sitting right next to you. I'm sorry.
we're all not used to being in person.
Yeah,
so-
thank you. I just wanted to make sure both things were coming. And also Todd is joining right now,
Todd is joining where?
remotely.
Well, he's not there.
You're gonna see, just
Keep an eye out for
keep
it.
an eye out for him.
No problem. Well, I don't see him, so. Mr. Giffin, go ahead.
How you get to it,
Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for letting me have a few minutes tonight. I know you wanted me to be quick, so I will be. So this is meant to be an update from HPC on our desire and our plans to obtain CLG, which is certified local government. So I see a few new faces on planning board. So just to recap for you, especially, this is something we've been pursuing for a few years. It's basically a scheme that's run by the State Historic Preservation Office, which is administered across the state, and it's meant to encourage HPCs to become standardized. So we basically have to change some of the things that we do, and then we apply to SHPO, and they then grant CLG status, hopefully. And the main benefit of that is if we want to obtain CLG status, we have access to additional funds, and we also have access to training. So it's something that I think we all want to pursue. So the main first step was we have to change some of the ordinances. The ordinances right now, we're lacking a few basic things. So we came before planning board, I think it was back in October. We presented our recommended changes to the ordinances based on SHPO's recommendations. You considered it and you produced a resolution, which I've summarized here in this paper that's around here, which you all hopefully got electronically. So you basically produced 6 recommendations back in October. So we subsequently met with SHPO after your meeting and went through them all with them. And I'll go through them all briefly, but basically the short summary is that we can change our ordinances to meet what we think you want and still obtain CLG. So that's obviously our main driver here. We want to stress we want to move forward with working with you guys. We want to make sure that we obtain what we want, but also we don't change the ordinances in a way that you guys don't want. So the first item that the first 2 items are sort of combined. They're really, you raised concern about the 45-day review period. That was so we changed ordinances to require that in line with the MLUL. I think you had some concerns about that. So you suggested we should perhaps have a 2-stream approach to a minor application and a non-minor. Especially SHPO don't recommend having a minor application process. The main reason being that it's very subjective. It creates lots of problems. So their recommendation was to leave the ordinance as it is. So not have the 45-day requirement, which I think, based on what you guys said, would satisfy that. So that's 1 and 2. Number 3 was we were changing landmark preservation status from how it currently is. I think you were concerned that that wouldn't be coming to planning board. So again, SHPO recommended or advised that leaving it as it is would still let us obtain CLG. So we're proposing to basically leave it as it is. The 4th item, you recommended that there was a check to make sure that all definitions that we were proposing lined up with other ordinances, and Chippo agreed that's a prudent thing to do. So John Hatch is working through that right now, addressing that. The fifth one was the demolition cooling off period. Basically, Chippo had recommended introducing a 12-month cooling off period for demolition of historic buildings. Right now, there's no cooling off period. The ordinance just says you can't demolish historic buildings. So that's what's there right now. So Chippo's recommendation is you have a 12-month cooling off period. You'd expressed concern that especially you didn't want that. So again, that's something that we don't have to do to obtain CLG. So we're proposing not to adopt that. And then the sixth item was which we didn't think maybe I'm not sure this was a typo, but you recommended reviewing or checking with DCA, but it's not DCA that's involved in this process, it's SHPO. So I'm not sure whether that last one was a misunderstanding of your discussion or what. But so anyway, so SHPO is the body that reviews it all. It's not DCA. Does that make sense? I'm trying to go through.
No, I appreciate that, Rich. Yeah. Again, this is just kind of informational update for
Right.
members of the board. The process, just so everyone knows, is that they have to go to council and fix the ordinance, and then it comes to us for review again. But obviously, appreciate the response to the stuff that we raised as concerns last time. Does
Yeah.
anybody have any questions for Richard? I mean, I don't want to go more than 15 minutes because we do have a public hearing starting, but we've got a few more minutes if members of the board have questions.
I just have a comment. I just think that we should encourage council as far as our six concerns are, if our concerns are not essential to obtaining CLG, and like, for example, number 5, and they'll be able to get we'll be able to get CLG without with our concerns incorporated in, then I would encourage council to incorporate our concerns into the final submission. I guess that's the way it works.
No, we have a draft already of the ordinances reflecting these changes, so we're going to put that through the council's attorney first. I guess then it would come to yourself, and then also SHPO would review it. So
Right, I mean, the process is, as just for members of the public, if council decides to introduce any ordinance that deals with this stuff that's under our jurisdiction, under first reading, then it comes to us, which we actually have one of those up on the agenda tonight for any comment, and then council acts at the public hearing after that. So we've got a few more steps. for
right,
sure.
right.
My only concern is with item number 1, it's not clear whether that SHPO's not recommending creating a minor application. It's not clear whether that would, unlike some of the other items on the list,
Mhm.
would that hold back the CLG approval?
No,
Okay,
No,
so council could take our recommendation if they wanted to on number 1 as well. It's just that, like some of the others say.
Oh, I see.
But it is not essential for obtaining CLG, but it's not but number 1 doesn't make that clear or not. I think we all felt pretty strongly about number 1.
well, it was number 1 because you didn't like the 45 days, so you wanted a minor. So what we're thinking is that's been addressed by leaving not having the 45 days requirement, so you don't.
I
need a minor.
agree. I just wanted to make sure that it doesn't hold up any CLG approval,
Okay.
and CLG, and that's not clear on the response
Okay.
side. That's all. I just wanted to make sure that was
Okay,
going to be okay with you.
yeah. I mean, I think, I'm also, I'm in drivers to become CLG, and, basically, SHPO made it clear that they will support us, very strongly, and if we do what we said on the right column here, also there's a process to go through, there's other things we have to do, but they're confident we will obtain CLG.
Great.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay.
We're moving on to item 7 on our agenda. Council adopted on first reading a ordinance 2022-3, which was previously circulated to everybody. I'm just going to read the title, just so everyone knows what we're talking about. An ordinance amending the private garage definition in chapter 12, land development definition, section 1202, as well as in something in the affordable housing set aside in chapter 26, zoning section 2635, for inclusionary zoning set aside. So maybe if I could ask Beth to walk that through for us, that would be appreciated.
I'd be happy to. So this is an ordinance as described. It does two things, and I'll go through each one. Thank you. Out of sorts in person.
It's already
It's
done.
on, you don't have to push a button.
Okay, so this ordinance does two things. The first thing it does is it, I would say, corrects the borough's standards regarding private garages in the commercial districts. And then the second thing that it does is it corrects your mandatory set aside ordinance. The intention is to better facilitate the things that the borough might want, and to have regulations in place that are better crafted to address concerns in the way these topics ought to be regulated. So with that, the first topic in regards to those private garages. The first thing you see in the ordinance is or in the draft ordinance, is that we are correcting the way that structured parking is regulated in the borough. So right now, structured parking is not directly addressed unless we're talking about, say, the Union Hotel redevelopment plan. It's not directly addressed in your borough code, and instead what you have is a standard in here, or it's really an accessory use that limits that states private garages worth up to 3 vehicles is permitted. And so if you recall, this was relevant in the Roth application. This was the first time where we've had an application where, at least in my memory, where it made clear that the ordinance really wasn't well crafted for this issue. So what we've done is, in your commercial districts, we've eliminated private garages for vehicles up to three vehicles from your ordinance. So it's no longer a specifically permitted accessory use. That said, garages are customarily incidental. If somebody needs they need a garage just to park a private vehicle, say, that's something, it's not that this is now prohibited, but rather for folks that want to create larger garages for a number of vehicles, it makes no sense to have them regulated as these private garages. Instead, and as we saw in the Roth application, people are interested in housing multiple vehicles in a garage that is really structured parking. It's a parking garage of some sort. So this ordinance creates a definition for structured parking, and then it permits structured parking as a conditional use in these zone districts. And then the conditions are intended to address the planning concerns that the borough may have about those garages. Essentially, how much frontage do they have along the street? Are we creating a dead zone? So it limits that. And it also requires that any place where it is visible, that it have structural components to really hide those parts of a parking garage that you don't want to see, which is essentially the view into the car. So we have an architectural feature providing cover. And so that's the first part of this ordinance that addresses private garages. As I said, there's a second part that addresses your mandatory set aside ordinance. This is the ordinance in the borough that states that requires an affordable housing set aside to be provided in projects that gain significant changes. So if it's subject to a rezoning or a redevelopment plan, or then specifically subject to a significant increase in density, an affordable housing set aside is required. And we previously had in here where it stated that the density needed to be at least twice that which is permitted under the zoning. But the way that this ordinance works is you would normally look to each zone district, find the permitted density, compare that to what's being proposed, but Wilmington ordinances don't have that specific number. Instead, we really regulate land use by setback, by building height, etc. So what this ordinance does is it provides guidance for how to calculate that permitted density. It talks about calculating that permitted density based on setbacks, building height, floor area ratio, and impervious cover. So a more simplified and streamlined way for determining what that existing density is, and frankly, an explicit way of determining what that density is. And then once you trigger that based on this increase in density, then the affordable housing set aside is required. That is unchanged. And I will say there is also an entire first paragraph that is deleted in your affordable housing set aside. It is just simply unnecessary and a bit duplicative. So I struck it for clarification purposes. So with that, that is perhaps a little bit longer of an overview.
No, that's okay. So our job here is to, just again, to remind the board, we have to talk about whether, any comments we might want to give to the governing body, consistency with our master plan and other documents, right? Will I miss
So-
anything?
Yeah, so, and I will say, it is consistent with your master plan. It is specifically consistent with your housing element, your fair share plan that requires this type of an ordinance. This change is not significant enough to endanger that consistency. And it is also consistent with your master plan in regard to the private garages, because your borough master plan talks about encouraging density and development in places that make sense, and doing so in a way that maintains the desirable character in the borough. This ordinance actually improves that relationship with your master plan by creating standards that are better implementing your master plan goals and objectives. And frankly, it also just modernizes the ordinance. The old style of regulating private garages, especially in commercial districts, is we have better practices than that now, such as structured parking standards.
I have a question for Beth. Beth, you are saying the commercial zones. I just want to clarify which zones this structured parking
Sure.
addresses. It's village artisan, professional office, DV2 and DB. Is that correct?
Also the 2C district.
Oh, did I miss that one?
Yeah, and the CD.
Oh, see, as a CV, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah, I
not
should-
scrolling fast enough.
And I should say more specifically, it's your commercial zones, but it's your commercial and your mixed use zones.
Okay.
It's not,
So now a follow-up question. This ordinance is specific, is not specific to individual parking. The way this ordinance is adjusted, it would encourage combined uses within one building, or it's an accessory use to, let's say, a multifamily with
it's about
parking
like
underneath.
just a parking. zone.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I want to
absolutely.
clear. I'm not wording that. Could you explain that a little bit? What's the difference between those two? I can think of a case where over at the Spice Factory, where when we were going through those approvals for that site years ago,
Mhm.
we at one point said, hey, you might want to try putting the parking underneath, and they chose not to.
Mhm.
But if this was in the ordinance way back when, it would have shown that we might encourage that, I guess. Is
Yeah.
that what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so what this ordinance does is it talks about in the first condition, is it requires that the front, along public street frontage, the first floor of that parking structure must be occupied by another permitted use in the district, except for a 40-foot wide area, which is the access to the parking garage. So what that essentially means is there has to be a liner building, or at least a liner first floor use, which is sort of an industry term where it ensures that rather than having the blank building facade of just the parking garage facing the street, it will be another permitted use. So in say the commercial districts, that permitted use would be one of the permitted commercial districts. In the DB2 district, for example, it would presumably be first floor non-residential use, and then perhaps upper story residence if so desired. But what's critical is how that first floor frontage is treated, and that must be, except for that 40-foot area, must be another permitted use in the district.
Other questions from board members? So I got people online too, I gotta check, okay. All right, so just remind me, Kara, we have to vote to,
A motion is to the fact that this is consistent with the master plan, number one, and number two, if there are any recommendations that the board would like to make to council with regard to the ordinance.
is there any recommendations that anyone on the board wants to make? Okay, so can I get a motion to, as Kara said, to deem it consistent with the master plan?
Engelhardt moves.
Cook second.
Cook seconded, Cook got here at 7:21, I just want to do the minutes, okay, just make sure everyone's got that. And Todd, Mr. Seconder, is here, okay. Is there any further discussion, members of the board? Okay, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mayor Driver,
Yes.
Mr. Campion,
yes,
Mr. Dashna,
Yes.
Mr. Budney,
Yes.
Ms. Weitzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Mr. Hill, or you give us a thumbs up or something.
yes,
He's
there you
yes,
go.
okay.
Thank you. Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Levitt.
yes.
All right, thank you all. If you could just send a note to Sally. whenever we do that.
Yes.
All right, good.
Yeah, I don't think, generally we give a little bit more detail, but it's fairly
Straightforward.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, item 8 on the agenda is the public hearing for Captiva Main Street LLC blocks 5. There's a typo on the agenda. It's lots 1 and 2, not 2 and 2, but it's lots 1 and 2. We all know the site. This is a continuation of the public hearing that was noticed for our March 8th, 2022 meeting. We carried that. There was no testimony given at that time. We carried it to this meeting. I'm going to ask if attorney and, yeah, right, get situated. We'll give you a chance to situate over there. I mean, whatever witnesses you're calling, you can also call up one at a time, I guess, as we.
Yeah, that's fine. We are not necessarily prepared to present the architectural exhibits digitally.
Okay,
I did email them earlier, but they were large files. I don't know if they can be easily loaded on this computer, but Jose has his easel, as you mentioned before.
right, so if we email them, we've got them digitally.
Okay.
So we could absolutely pull those up. I mean, did we circulate those?
Yes.
to everybody, right?
And
They're
they're
on
also
the
on the website.
Okay, so we can absolutely.
The ones from earlier today, because the exhibits from earlier today, that I sent, because there's some slight changes.
No, those were not posted, and it's actually not within the 48 hours to post those. exhibits.
Yeah, so why don't we just put them up on the easel, if that's okay?
Is that kosher with a hybrid meeting?
This is where the meeting is, as you indicated.
Yes.
Everything is here, so
Okay.
we're going by in-person rules. If
Okay.
somebody chooses to participate virtually, they can certainly do that, but this is where the meeting is.
Okay, so
Can we?
Yeah, that was my impression.
Well,
The change was the height.
Okay, so the only change is the height, and actually that was emailed.
Yeah.
10 days ago,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
So that would have been.
I would just say, again, we're figuring this out as we go along, so I
Yeah,
apologize.
We're happy to be the guinea pigs.
I would say that if we could pull off the exhibits that were posted on the website, and then you could speak to the changes, that would probably be the easiest thing, because my fear is, one of the problems about this room historically is that putting something on an easel, there is no good spot for the board and the members of the public
It's
and
not just this
professionals, all this here, which is why we kind of wanted to have the digital so everyone can see it a little bit better. So if while we're kind of getting started, if someone could, get a volunteer from the board or somebody to just go to that computer and pull up, what do you think if you can do this from the borough's website, the meeting documents has that is there, but I don't know if that's. If not, somebody can help you out with that.
It's the same, we'll have to be participant.
I will do that once we get up.
You'll have to
there.
go to historicfarmington.
Yeah, could you do that? Yeah. So there. The PV witness is a panel, so they should, I will make sure that the sharing is set, but we have to pull it up. She's gonna help you out with this, but while we're getting that onto that computer, and we'll make sure that going forward, we let applicants know that this is how we're doing it. All right. We're filling it out. If we could perhaps get, maybe if you want to start with if any opening testimony, we'll start with that stuff, or we'll get going with that.
Yeah.
Before we jump in, we notices jurisdiction to proceed. Can you start with all that?
Eileen,
Yeah.
can you just confirm that you've received all notices and proofs of publication and everything is in order to proceed? Yes. And then we'll mark the initial application and notice exhibits after, just so we got this is in trouble.
Okay, Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Sean McGowan, I'm a partner at the law firm of Greenbaum, Rose, Smith and Davis in Roseland, New Jersey. We're very pleased to be here tonight to present the application of Captiva Main Street LLC at 35 North Main Street in the borough of Flemington, commonly known as the Agway site. We have been working on this and the redevelopment plan with the borough for many years now. It's been a labor of love to get to this point, so we're very excited to be here. We're very proud of the building, and we hope that all the feedback that we've received over the years from planning board through the completeness stage, as well as the borough's professionals, has been taken to heart, and we think made a great building that we're very pleased to present to you tonight. The building, it's actually two buildings. There are we're proposing two residential buildings on site with parking underneath each building. One building is 4 stories, 3 over parking, and the building B is 3 stories, 2 levels of residential over 1 level of parking. We are proposing 174 parking spaces, which is compliant when you consider the 2-for-1 bonus up to 10% of the required spaces that the New Jersey State Legislature has enacted a statute allowing. So we are compliant with parking. We are also very happy to say that over the last couple of weeks, we believe we have eliminated all variances and design waivers. There may be 1 or 2 design waivers that come up that we'll address during testimony throughout the course of the presentation. But most significantly, we noticed for a variance for the number of electric vehicle charging station readiness spaces. We are required to have 29. Originally, we were proposing 21, but it's not a big deal for us to add the additional 8. So we no longer need a variance for that. I know there were some questions as to whether a variance could even be provided. So there's no question because we're going to provide it. Likewise, there's some design issues that were brought up in the review letters that I think with a few tweaks to the design, we're going to be able to eliminate all those design waivers. Like I said, there might be 1 or 2 that come up that we will address during testimony. Also of significance, originally the plans that were submitted had the tower at approximately 60 feet, which we were actually during our prep session, we were looking at the redevelopment plan and we interpreted that as being not requiring relief under the redevelopment plan, but it was brought to our attention that it would have required a D variance. So the architect has lowered the tower to 50 feet about, which is compliant with the redevelopment plan. So we do not need a D variance for that. An exhibit was provided to the board approximately 10 days ago, and the architect will provide testimony on that shortly. Tonight we have 2 witnesses with 3 different disciplines for you. First, Jose Carballo of JC Architecture is going to present the architectural schematics of the building, give you an overview of what we are presenting. I keep saying building, it's actually multiple buildings. Give you an overview of what we are proposing. Most importantly, he will go into the details of what it's going to look like from the street with materials and how it is going to harmoniously work into the landscape of the borough of Flemington and its history. Second, Eric Ho from Burton Engineering is going to provide testimony on the site plan as well as traffic. And then we'll see where we go from there. If there's no questions, I will call the first witness. I don't know if you want to do the exhibits with.
Yeah, so do we have,
I just pulled the first one, I'm not sure which one.
so let's bring up the architect and he can navigate now.
Sure.
Okay, so before we do
We're
that,
gonna do qualifications and.
yeah,
exhibits and
even
all that
before we
good
do
stuff.
that, yeah, we'll mark the first exhibits. So A1 will be the application and the supporting documents that have been submitted. They'll all be outlined in the resolution, as well as they're on the website. And A2 will be the notice of the publication. Swear Jose.
Yes.
You okay?
Yeah.
All right. You're welcome.
We'd like Mr. Carvalho.
I would prefer if you could, yes, so that folks on camera have the best view of witness testimony and we all can see in the camera.
Yeah.
We're trying this out.
I don't know if Tony wants to come on over here. It's really squishy over there. I've had a squish on both sides
I'm
there.
good, I'm
If
good.
he's uncomfortable, I just noticed it.
I kind of wanted to get cut as much from this.
Good, all right.
All right.
All right, Jose, do you swear the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, Karen.
Thank you.
Trouble.
Thank you, Mr. Caballo. You don't mind if I call you Jose, right?
Oh, no, please, that's my name.
Could you please give the board the benefit of your experiences and licenses in the state of New Jersey?
Sure, absolutely. Graduated from NJIT in Newark in 1980. Had my license in 1986. Currently the president of Jose Caballo Architectural Group, or JCAG. I have appeared in front of every single board in Hudson County. Karen can testify to, we know each other from back then. About 50% of the boards in Bergen County, Newark, Patterson, Atlantic City, Trenton, Camden, and both in Board of Adjustment as well as planning boards. My first time here, I'm pleased to be able to finally present this building to you.
Any further questions from our professionals? Any objections to qualifying Mr. Caballo as an architect, expert in architecture? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jose, one thing I forgot to mention, I think was kind of implicit in my opening, but the application that we're presenting to you tonight is developed under the Global Agway Redevelopment Plan. So when all references to the zoning ordinance and so on and so forth are in reference to the Global Agway Redevelopment Plan, that's where we meet all of the requirements. And with that, Jose, you are familiar with the Global Agway Redevelopment Plan and have designed the two buildings on site to be in compliance with that plan and meet the goals, correct?
That is correct.
So can you give the board just the benefit of general description and the details as you see necessary and answer any questions the board has?
Absolutely. As an introduction to the project, as council said, this was done under the Global Agway Global, under the redevelopment plan and its requirements. We currently have two buildings that we're presenting to you tonight, and it's a 100-unit project, which complies with the density that was permitted under the plan. The height of the buildings, not only stories but dimensionally all comply with the plan. Parking complies with the plan, and we'll go through the site and show you what we've done to make this project as appetizing to the town and the neighbors as possible, and to make sure that the project actually works for the residents, not just the building, but also the residents of the town. Building was designed in an industrial type of look. The concept, which I'll go through later in more detail, is just the renovation of an existing industrial building. And of course, we know that that project or that building doesn't exist, but it was just as a concept to get to a point where the building will look in industrial look as a throwback to the industrial area that the borough is and its surrounding communities. Aside from that, if I could just open up the file.
Yeah, you should be able to share screen and then everyone will see it on the monitors as well. There's folks who are remote.
Can everybody see it?
You have to hit share screen at the bottom there.
That mouse does not.
Oh, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
sorry.
tried to.
So.
So the bottom, there's a big green button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. That's a share screen.
It doesn't come up.
The Zoom screen is, you have to tab over, the Zoom screen's on the left, because I opened it from I opened a new tab on the Historic Flemington website.
I can do it, but I'm not supposed to. That's it. Okay. Screen, okay.
Yeah, so there's another tab where it has Zoom.
I think you need to open it up, all right? Yeah, show it up on the-
But you can look at the screen in front of, the big one in front of you, that's how you'll know if it's working. It's all good. Hey.
Yay.
All right. Excellent, thank you.
I did.
Excellent, thank you, sir. All right.
So, this is a set comprised of 8 drawings. I know it says 9, we originally had an extra drawing that we pulled out, but we never reviewed that, but it is a set of 8 drawings. The drawing that you see in front of you now is the cover sheet. It has the name of the project, Artiga Main Street at Flemington. It gives you a little bit of flavor as to what the building's gonna look like on the upper left corner. On the right-hand corner, it shows the site, and it shows the shape of the site. It shows that it's bounded by Walter Forum on the west side of the property. You have the main street, and then you have Hopewell Avenue right here. This is the one of the bookends of Main Street. On this side, Main Street continues on this way, and with my poor driving skills over here. So this is Main Street going this way. The site, as I was explaining previously, again, this is Hopewell on a larger size. This is Main Street right here, and this is Walter Forum on this side, on the west side of the property. We divided the property into 2 so we could get 2 buildings. It's an irregularly shaped site, as you can see, and the buildings basically follow the shape of the property. We had a few items to deal with within the property. One of them is that we have a culvert that runs through the center of the property, crossing Main Street. And that culvert goes directly into the Bushville Creek. Because we have a creek and because we have wetlands, not only do we have to deal with the wetlands, but also we had to deal with the buffers from those wetland areas. So what you see here is basically the only area of the site that we could develop. And we actually made very efficient use of it. This is the larger building. This is building A, which A as in Albert, which contains 61 units. This is building B, as in Barbara, which contains 39 units, for a total of 100 units. 2 buildings were basically designed around a courtyard as a drop-off area, just to make sure that we didn't impact or minimally impact the ingress and egress or the actual access to the buildings. Building B also has its drop-off area on this side. Again, this was done so that cars would pull off the street and either pick up passengers or drop off passengers, or in both cases, go into garage areas. Also, the area that is in between the buildings has a driveway that cuts from Hopewell to Walter Forum, and it's one way going this way, going west towards Walter Forum. That driveway has been revised somewhat, and the civil engineer will show what we've done with that driveway. This driveway is used for services, which we'll show you later. But it's trash pickup on both sides of the building, as well as servicing the utility areas that are on this other side of the building. We originally had parking in the rear of building B, and conversations with Mr. Cormack, I guess is the fire marshal. We eliminated that just so that it wouldn't be a danger of a fire to a car behind the building. And that's when we started relocating parking spaces within the buildings, as well as using the EV credits to get to the number of parking spaces that will replace the parking spaces that were removed. If we this is plus. 5%. So the site plan also works as a roof plan, and you can see the roof of the building. This is the general shape of the building going by my direction of my arrow, which is all over the place at this point. But this is the roof of building A, and you can see certain things here. For example, you have all the compressors or rooftop equipment. This rooftop equipment is for the HVAC for all the units, and this is actually enclosed. It has a screen all around it. You can see it on all 4 of them on this side, and the 3 of them on the other building, so that we can visually cover the building, and so that the equipment is not readily visible from any angle from the street. We also, if you can see at, let's say this building B, you have these little circles here, these little balls. Those are roof drains. So this is an internal an internal water collection system, storm system, and it's a flat roof. So this is internal. We don't have any scuppers. We're not spilling water out over the building, and that happens on both buildings there as well as excuse me, on this side here. We also have a partial green roof. This roof is about 5,500 square feet. This roof is about, I believe, about 3,900 square feet on the roof. Not accessible by tenants, just a green roof, sort of to just mitigate the look of the building from up above. You're gonna see here on the corner, this in building A, this is a tower, and you're gonna see the corner here of building B. Those are the towers that we designed to give the building a focal point, and those are the towers that we actually reduced from, I believe it was like 65 feet at one point. We reduced them down to 50 feet so we could comply with the agri redevelopment plan. Also, just as the 2 towers, or each of the towers, is less than the 3% maximum that's permitted. So I believe this one is 2.4 and this one is 2.3. So we're less than the 3% that's permitted. Anything else to say here other than, again, this is how you would pick up someone or drop off someone, get out. We do have areas here as well as here for moving service vehicles, the ever-present UPS, FedEx, all those drop-off vehicles, so that they'll be off the road, but also don't use out any parking spaces from the residents. You will see from the civil plans, all of the electric vehicle components that we have on the plans on both buildings. On the corner of, I guess, Main Street and Hopewell Avenue, we have a plaza, or actually a terrace, and you will see that on the plans that this is an outdoor area for the gym that is on this side. Okay. So moving on to the building floor plan, you can see building A, and you can see building B. Another one of the characteristics of the site is that there's a 10-foot drop off from Hopewell down to Walter Foreign. And what we've done is we use that, especially in building A, to park under the building, so that the access from Hopewell will be right at the level of the lobby for the first floor of the building. We couldn't do that in building B. Building B is more of the location of building B is more of a level area. And the lobby is right on the first floor, which is where the main parking area is. You can see the parking spaces on building B. Their access through this door, overhead door. And then we have parking here as well as parking on this side. Same thing for building A. You have the entrance to the lower level parking from that drive aisle that's on the side of the building. So you have parking along all the whole building. Parking is going to be assigned to the residents of the building, so you always know which one's your parking space, and you go directly there. That eliminates any problems of dead-end parking aisles, such as what we have in these buildings. Both of them actually have that same condition. So by assigning parking, we feel that that's going to prevent that extra confusion within the parking areas. I started discussing the driveway that is in between the buildings as to what they access and so here's the driveway, and again, it's access going west from Hopewell Avenue down to Global Forum. You have the trash and recycling areas for both buildings adjacent to the driveway, as well as utility areas adjacent to that driveway and access from that driveway. So all of the, let's just call it back of the house services will happen not in the front of the building, but basically in between the two buildings. This also provides an entrance to the parking level in building A, and parking level building A, which is the under the building or below building parking. Since we have a drop of 10 feet from Hopewell down to Walter, and not to recognize the Walter Forum as Main Avenue, we do have a lobby that is also adjacent to Walter Forum, so we could have a presence or an entrance from Walter Forum, as well as the one we have from Hopewell Avenue. Floor plans for the building. The floor plans are organized around a that follows the entire length of the building. It always has comments on both sides, and it has stairwells at both ends. This is hallway. Here the same thing. This is a hallway, and then we get stairway at the end. Aside from the 61 units in building A, are comprised of 23 one-bedroom, 36 two-bedrooms, and 3 three-bedrooms. The 2 bedrooms are the affordable units. Building B at 39 units, there's 13 one-bedroom, 25 two-bedrooms, and 1 3-bedrooms. And again, that 3-bedroom is for the affordable units. The redevelopment plan says that we can only have a maximum of 60% of the affordable units in one building. So we have 15 total units, 60% is 9 units, those would be on building or in building A, and the other 6 units at 40% would be in building B. Both of them will have 3-bedroom units. Those are the green units. This is the 3 bedrooms in building A, and that's a 3-bedroom in building B. This is only 1, and this would be 2, 1 stacked on top of the other. Aside from the residential usage of the building, we have several amenities, and the amenities include on building A includes a gym at the I guess that would be the southeast corner of the building. And they have a patio, gym patio for, I guess, yoga classes, or if you just sweating, you could go out there and refresh a little bit. It's just then, just for the, just to give the athletes, I'd say, a chance to go outside and refresh themselves. There's a multi-purpose room. This multi-purpose room could be used for resident parties. It's going to be more of a living room type of situation where you could watch a football game or World Series, or just the 4th of July or New Year's Eve celebrations. There's also offices. The office is a work from home space. It's not meant to be a public office where people would actually visit, or guests would actually visit. This is for the occupants of the building, for the residents.
And Jose, not to interrupt, that goes for all the amenities, right? Just solely for the residents?
Absolutely, that goes for all the amenities. So far, the building is just for the residents. It's not meant to, and obviously you have guests coming in, but it's not supposed to be for just anybody walking in on the street. It's not a public place. On building B, you also have your multi-purpose room. This side is more office area. Again, the same thing, work from home. Residents who choose to have a full workspace at the building. So where's my both buildings have lobby with mail rooms and package rooms. This one is on the lower level, which is the entrance to this building. Let's see. So the building B, building A, just continuing out, the gym area or the fitness area that was in the corner, that becomes a residence, the same as the multi-purpose room becomes a residence on this side. The office area still remains there, and on building B, that a multi-purpose room also becomes another unit. Again, building A is 3 stories, building B is 2 stories. So at this point, building B doesn't have any more residences. It's the roof, and then you have a building A. There's no residence on the top floor. Just to give you an idea of the type of units that we're going to be providing. You see your 1 bedroom is 740 to 800 square feet. It's a good sized bedroom. All the apartments in this building are adaptable. They all have their accessible bathrooms or adaptable bathrooms. They'll have the dimensions, the door sizes, the approaches that are required so that they are fully accessible. The kitchen will have the removable panels so that a person in a wheelchair can actually access the sink or work area. And the same thing for the bathrooms, the panels under the sink will be removable so that it becomes a fully accessible space. Right now, they're only adaptable. The 2-bedroom, as you can see, is 950 square feet to 1150 square feet. This is a corner 2-bedroom. You can see that this is from 1,000 to 1,050. Size of the smallest room is 10 by 12.4, so the smaller bedroom. The master bedroom is 11.6 by 15, so good size spaces. Living dining area is 22 by 15, which is rather sizable for apartment living. The other 2-bedroom, actually this is a 3-bedroom on the corner. And what we've done is we've stolen a little bit of room from the room next to the apartment next door. So that becomes the 3rd bedroom. This unit is 1,250 to 1,350 square feet. So again, just because there are affordable units doesn't mean that they get less space. This is full space, and again, you have the accessible bathroom, and you have a second bathroom, which in this case with 3 bedrooms, accessible from the master bedroom, and the second bedroom, and the second bedroom. That becomes the private bathroom for on the 2-bedroom design. That becomes the second bathroom for the in-suite master bedroom. Again, this is a 2-bedroom with bedrooms at opposite ends of the apartment. The living room in between. Again, you can see you have the adaptable bathroom, you have the utilities, washer, dryer, you have your kitchen with, again, the same type of characteristics that the ones that I explained before, where you have the panels that can get pulled out so that you can fit or you can comfortably go under the sink and a work area if you happen to be in a wheelchair. Again, 2-bedroom, 950 square feet to 1,150 square feet. So on this drawing, we have the towers, and this is the first floor for tower building A. This is the larger of the 2 towers, and you can see this is where the tower actually is. We have open area that opens out to a second level. Oops, sorry, went the wrong way. This is tower A, and this is where you go out to the second bedroom in the mezzanine. It's not a story, it's a mezzanine. There's a certain criteria for that as well, and we're maintaining that on this apartment. Building B tower, again, you have the 2-bedroom that was underneath on the level below, and now you have a stair that goes up to that mezzanine, which becomes the tower of the building B. This apartment is 1,250 square foot. The first tower, building B, building A, is actually 1,400 square feet in size. So again, the apartments here are sizable. We don't have any apartments that would be considered as undersized or middle. Get to the elevations, as I was discussing before. So this one doesn't have the 50-foot pallet, but I'll testify to that. So basically, you see a building that has 4 main materials: brick, glass, glass fiber reinforced concrete, we call it GFRC, and metal. And the combination of all those materials basically forms the concept of what these buildings are, or the concept of an industrial building that fell in disrepair and we're bringing it back to life. So you have your brick areas. Okay, so you have your brick areas here, 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 and basically all the corners of brick. And then you have the infill of GFRC on the lower levels, and then you have your metal on the upper level. Just to give you an idea of materials, I can see that. This is the red brick that we've chosen for the building. It's an iron spotted brick. It has a nice rich red color to it. And
we want to submit these as exhibits.
Yep. So
Yeah.
that'll be A3. And if you could just describe that again first, so that's the brick, the red brick.
So this is the red brick that we've chosen for the brick portions of the building.
Does it have a manufacturer and a color or something you could read in?
I'll get you out. I pulled it off, and on the way up, I realized that,
It's
hey,
fine, it's fine. Just for Kara's notes, it's fine. It's not like-
Carol, I'll get that over to you.
Thank you.
You want to see it?
Pass it around, we can see the bricks.
Absolutely.
That's fine. Don't throw bricks.
Karen, was A3 going to be the exhibit that he's showing on his screen right now?
So that was already submitted.
This is the plans that were submitted as part of the application, so I don't think they need to be
Okay.
Yeah,
considered.
they're not-
Very good.
So the only question is whether you want us to show the hard copy of the revised page.
Which is the one that was just submitted.
No, that was submitted, I don't know, 10 days ago.
Yeah.
If that's not what's on the screen. is
I think that-
What is on the screen is what was submitted as part of the
Exactly,
application.
exactly.
There's one page that we submitted, I don't know, 7 days ago, I can actually tell you the exact date.
Well, if he's
that-
gonna use it in his testimony, then yes, we will.
We'll enter it separately then, but if you don't need to show it right now.
We don't need to show it now, we just want to
And
make
if-
it clear that we don't have any variances.
Right, and if you want to give testimony about the height question as you talk through this exhibit, then I think we're probably fine.
Okay,
I will go through that.
as long as you're satisfied, it's fine.
I
but-
believe we'd be okay with that because you already submitted it.
Sure. So the second material is what we call the GFRC glass fiber reinforced concrete, which is a panel.
So A4.
You want to mark all these in one lot or not? A3 is okay.
Unless you'd like me to.
No,
Together.
whatever's easier. for you. You're the attorney.
Okay,
Pass it around.
so you've probably heard of James Hardy. This is much better than James Hardy. This is Ectotone. And I know we have a couple of architects on the board, so you probably know what this material is. It's much, much superior to, I'm sorry, I need to just let you all know that. It's much better. It's a lot sturdier. You can actually cut it, you can do a lot of things with it that the other materials won't stand to. The top color, and once we get to the renders, you'll see where all these colors go. The top metal, the standing seam metal that we call as a crown to the building, is this charcoal gray material. We wanted to provide a dark top to the building so that we could actually, when you put it all together, it looks a little better. So that you can see an actual top to the building.
Okay, and that'll be A5.
That would be A5. And the last sample that I have is the window frame sample. It's a black window. I have YKK car. That's a manufacturer, and it's a black anodized plus. So this is the color for that, for the windows. So the only difference between this submission and the submission that we made about a week and a half or so ago is that the towers, and you're gonna see here, this is building 8, this is the larger building, this is the tower. This tower is now down to about here, and it's 50 feet. So if you see the average grade, and it's 40 feet to here as the building height, another 10 feet, that's where the tower is. And again, you see it here as well. The rest of the building, as you can see from the lower portion of it, this is the Walter Foran. This is the Walter Foran. I'm sorry, this is the whole elevation, I'm sorry. We're coming into building A, and you can see the lobby area and the very prominent entrance. You see areas, arched areas under the building. You actually have cars pulling in there and parking as part of the outdoor parking area. This is all open. And you can see the detail that we have on the brick areas. Again, we're trying to take a building that was probably built conceptually in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and taking the parts that remain and building around it. On the corner, on the left side of what we call elevation 2, that one has a lot more glass. This is the corner where we have the fitness area, so we thought that it would be nice to have more glass there, so that you can see a little bit more light from the street, and you can see a little bit more of a connection between the building and the street on that corner. If you come down Main Street, that's the view that you're gonna get driving from Main Street to the building.
Before you move past, I just want to make sure I got, because it's different, this has totally different, I just want to make sure I got this exactly right. So I'm looking at the dimensions that are showing ground floor A 0, right, second floor A 12'0". Are all those dimensions the same all the way through to roof A on the updated drawing, and then the only thing that's changing is the height?
That
Of the
is
tower?
correct.
Okay.
The only thing that changes is if you see, where's my arrow? If you see where it says maximum tower height 65,
Mhm.
that is now gone. And what you're gonna see is an elevation 58 here, which is 40, which is the 40-foot height here, plus another 10 feet. Now, realizing that 0 is the ground floor, and the average grade is about 8 feet up from that, that's why 58 feet minus the 8 feet is the 50-foot height that we have on the tower.
Just want to make sure all the other dimensions are the same as they're shown here.
All the other
Okay.
4 elevations remain the
That's,
same.
that was
exactly.
just clarifying the question. Thank
Sure,
you.
no, thank you, thank you. And again, you see all the different sides of the building, and you can see that we've designed every single side of the building to look like a front elevation. We continue the same type of detail all around the building. So this is building B, this is a smaller building. This is the building that is 3 stories, and you have 2 stories of residential over 1 level of parking. And this is where the lobby is at the same level as the parking is. This is the parking entrance. What you see here is the courtyard, the drop-off area in front of the building. Okay, so the tower, again, the same thing. The maximum tower height that you see up here is 65, that disappears. And you're gonna see an elevation of, again, probably about 50 here, which is the height of that tower. So that tower is cut dramatically from what it was before. Again, the same thing with the elevation. You have, the brick portions of the building. You have the infills following a certain rhythm throughout the building, so that every single part of the building again is designed. There's nothing left to be a rear elevation or a side elevation that you can tell that it wasn't designed. Again, this is a larger view of the render that we had originally. You can see the red brick. You can see the windows with the black frame. You can see the light gray, and this is the GFRC material, the Equitone material that I showed you, as well as the black, the charcoal gray standing seam building top of the building. Now we have these elements in the building, and as the old industrial buildings, they used to have hoists, and they used to have bulkheads, and they used to have excuse me, all kinds of different elements of the roof. So we wanted to create something where we get the idea of hoist, we get the idea of something happening on that roof. And B, we wanted to terminate the building. We wanted to make sure that the building had a terminus when we were looking at the building towards the roof. We wanted to make it a simple parapet wall, which I think we've done. If you follow this line, but we wanted to have some strong elements to break up the building and to provide that the visual interest to the building. Again, you see the large windows. These windows are double hung, as the old industrial buildings. So we're following again taking the iconography of an industrial building circa 1890 or in those days. Rendering within the same or the same level as this. This is the courtyard. So you can see that, I'm sorry, I'm looking at 4, rendering number 4. Okay, here we go. So you can see the how inviting that corridor is, when the car pulls in, the building recedes, you have the terminus of the legs of the building, and that allows you and draws you into the building. On rendering 5, again, this is the corner of building A, and that gentleman is working on Hopewell, and you see the deck that actually allows for a little bit of spillover of what's going inside the gym. I think one of the questions that was brought up at one point was, what are the hours of the amenity spaces? And obviously, it's something that's used for only residential usage. We thought that they could be used, it should be used by the tenants 24/7. We looked to you to give us a little bit more direction in that, understanding that if I live in the area, I wouldn't want anything happening on that day after a certain hour. So we look to you for that kind of guidance as far as that area of the building. Again, these are more views of the building, recognizing that we just eliminated all the buildings across the street and we created a huge park. But this is what building A will look like at that point. And this is we'll go rendering number 2. Rendering number 3 again is the view from Wilberforce. Actually, no, this is building B from Bushville Creek, which you see right under here, and you can see that obviously we're preserving this. And as a new rendering, you see these vehicles back in here. This was the original rendering that included a parking area in the back of building B. That's gone now. So you're going to see green going throughout this whole rendering when we resubmit with the renderings.
There was a comment, or we had a discussion with the fire marshal, Mr. McCormick, and one of his main concerns was the ability to get emergency vehicles and fire vehicles behind the building, through the building, tough for them to go underneath the building to get to this parking area if there was an issue. So in your discussion, and our engineer will testify to this as well, that if we just eliminated that parking area, it alleviated his concerns. And I think that was seen in his latest letter.
Why don't we mark that one too? So I've got his letter here, March 1st, 2022.
It was a more recent letter, though, isn't it?
No, March 1st, 2022.
February and March 1st. Yep. So that'll be A7, that was 3-1, and just to quickly summarize, it says, the letter informs the board on February 28th, the telephonic meeting with Captiva representatives, Jose Carballo, Eric Howe, and Sean McGowan. Meeting addressed open items of concern, and I'm satisfied that everything on our current list of concerns can be addressed further if needed during the permitting and construction phase of the project.
Right, just to provide further detail, we actually discussed this matter probably about 3 times on the phone. And the final agreement is that once we start doing CDs, should it get approved, then we get together with them and just go through all the details that they want. So whatever he was asking for, we can comply with. So we will incorporate that in the CDs. Again, should probably be approved, obviously. And I think this is the end of it. Again, this is what the building looks like. They have the materials, it's a combination of materials. Again, comments on the materials, comment on the comments on the look of the building, what we did with the building. We greatly appreciate it.
I just have one question for you before I hand it over to the chairman. There were a number of references in the redevelopment plan and the comment letters about how this property serves as a gateway if you're coming south from Raritan. And you, in your opinion as an architect, considering things like you mentioned before, how there's not really a rear of the building, we haven't put lesser materials anywhere around the building or anything like that. In your opinion, this building serves as a landmark gateway and really defines entering into the borough of Flemington in a positive way.
Sure, so adding what I said before, where I actually mentioned that this is the who came to Main Street on this side. It's also the gateway if you're coming in from the other side. This is one of the first things that you will see when you enter Main Street. And we believe that, this is gonna be a great billboard for the borough. So we feel confident that this building is gonna be class building.
And in no way, it in no way hinders the general public's use of the area. It meets the goals of the redevelopment plan in that, it brings additional residents to the city, activates streetscape to allow them to walk into town and things of that nature, right?
From an architectural point of view, not to sound as a planner, yes. Again, just going through the KNA report, it reduced the height of the towers to 50 feet. One of the comments was about the towers being more than 3%, the towers are less than 3%, the 2.3 and 2.4. The 60% of the 15 units, affordable units, have been put into building A, that's 9 units, the 6 units, 40%, it's going to the building. Let's see if I have any more comments.
Well, what we usually do, just so you understand, once direct testimony is given, we usually ask for questions from our professionals and they'll walk through relevant sections of their review letters as needed. Then we do questions from the members of the board, and then we do questions from members of the public. So if that's where you're at in your testimony.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, and obviously there was gonna be follow-up questions to this, but in all the review letters that we've received, there's nothing from an architectural standpoint that you cannot comply with, correct?
That is correct. Just one last comment on the building. It's an elevator building, so it's a fully adaptable building, is accessible to all the more public areas such as the amenity space and things of that nature. Is fully fire suppressed. It's a rated building. There's rating between all the units and the floors and corridors and spaces like that. So it is a state of the art, and actually, if it gets approved before the next code change, this will be built under the International Building Code 2018 New Jersey edition.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to our professionals if there's questions for the testimony given by the architect this evening. I'm gonna start with Beth.
Yeah, I think I'm just going through my report to see what's still outstanding. I think I do have a couple questions.
While you do that, Beth, why don't we mark the reports? So we'll mark this PB1, the report of Board Planner McManus dated March 2nd, 2022. We'll mark as PB2, the report of Board Engineer Bob Perico dated February 28th, 2022. Jay, did I miss one?
It was circulated
Just
today.
today, okay, so then yes, the answer to that is yes, so then his will be PB3, circulated today, does it have today's date?
Yesterday.
23/21, 22. 3/22.
3/21.
Right, was the letter dated yesterday or?
Oh,
dated yesterday.
Yeah, the letter's dated the 21st, yes.
So, yeah, I do have a couple questions. In your testimony, there was indication that all the affordable units will meet the applicable requirements. And I just wanted to follow up to see if there's going to be an approval. One of my recommended conditions was that you engage the Borough Affordable Housing Administrator to handle the affordable housing, even qualification, marketing, et cetera.
Yeah, I can stipulate yes, yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry.
It's good.
I thought that was a legal question.
Well, it is, but I can't testify, but the answer is yes.
Thank you. And then I appreciate you said that a lot of the, I think the back of the house activities in the building are facing that internal drive. But, and I believe that includes the trash area. Can you, if this is not the right witness, or if any of my future ones are, I'm happy to be redirected, but I'm looking for a little testimony on exactly how the trash system will work in terms of pickup or, collection, drop off from the residents, et cetera.
You wanna take it?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Trying to enlarge that drawing.
If you want to start, maybe from the interior of the building, how the traffic. is
So,
down.
yeah, that's what I was trying to get, so I can enlarge it a little bit. So every floor will have a trash chute, and if you look at, let's see, this is drawing A101. If you look at the ends of the building, the ends of the building meaning the ends adjacent to that area. You see a trash chute, which, we forgot to actually put the access to the trash chute here, as we have over here. So we have chutes on both sides, both ends of the building, and that refuse goes down to this area. There's compactors on both buildings, and the trash ends up, as well as recycling, ends up in these rooms. They're the pickup, the truck will come down, the refuse will be brought out, and you see the bags coming out here, and then we get picked up by the company, whichever private company they decide to use.
You said they'll be brought out. Will the trash be left out? I guess, let me be more clear about what I'm trying to get to. There gonna be instances where there's a truck waiting within the drive aisle, waiting for somebody to come bring out the trash, or will it be stored overnight and waiting for their collection the following day?
The trash will probably be brought out overnight. I mean, it makes sense that the trash is there early in the morning so that the hauler can pick it up and take it away.
And will it be contained in anything?
I'm sorry.
And will it be contained in anything? Because I don't see.
No, there's no, in a suburban situation, you have your trash container outside.
Right.
Our trash container is inside. What comes outside is not a trash container per se, but there's bundles of, compacted trash that come out and they just roll it out. So it's not like you're gonna see a whole bunch of cans, a whole bunch of bags in there. You're gonna see so neatly compacted. I think they come out like 2 by 2 by 2 bundles of the trash, and that gets taken out, wheeled out, so that the trash hauler can pick them up.
Is it once a week pickup?
It'll probably be twice a week.
Okay.
It'll be private, so they can schedule on an as needed basis.
And just let me add, the building's gonna have 24/7 management, so they'll take care of all this and make sure that the maintenance of the building is all right. So something like this is kept to, standards.
So I guess, ultimately, what I want to make sure is we don't need additional space on the site plan for the overnight trash storage. That the pickups are frequent enough that you don't need to create an additional pad area to store the trash, because we certainly don't want that to create something that's unsightly. I'm sure you guys don't either, and we really don't want it to flow to overflow into the access aisle.
Absolutely, we'll make sure we landscape in front of it as well, just so at least the view from floor to floor. It's actually is up here, hopefully 10 feet up high. Or higher than that, so we'll landscape in front of it, so that in case anything remains there, that is covered by landscaping. But again, 24/7 management, they'll make sure that the place is clean and sanitary.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see. And then, as I had a question, I asked for testimony regarding mail and delivery, and I think you've done that in large part by identifying the 2 loading areas in front of each building, one rather in front of each building.
That's correct, and building A, it's right here. And building B is right here adjacent to the building. So again, that's just not mail, it's UPS, it's all kinds of deliveries, even service vehicles, and they need to be servicing to be done. To the apartments, that's where they park. As well as, moving, I mean, that's a big one.
And you guys will coordinate moving days for all of your residents to ensure we don't have overflow trucks along hotels?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And let's see, I think this is a question for you. Any proposed signage either on the building or otherwise?
The only signage that we thought we would have would be on. Okay, where's my arrow? There it is. The only signage I thought we would have would be on, okay, line. Yeah, would be on the corner up against the wall here. We're not proposing any signage now. If we propose any signage, it's gonna have to comply with, you know, the ordinances and the redevelopment plan.
Okay, that's fine.
And that will be submitted for your review and engineering review.
But if the question was, what are the sign standards and what's required, I don't know off the top of my head, so it may necessitate an amended application, I just don't know, but it sounds.
That would be
like
fine, if
you're willing
it
to-
doesn't comply and we need to come back to the board for signage, it's absolutely fine.
And I had some questions and concerns in here about the parking garage layout, is that a question for you?
I think I did answer that question before when I said all the parking is actually gonna be assigned.
Yeah.
So that you always know where you're going, and that eliminates, for example, that would eliminate, as an example, you know, traffic jam over here. You know that this is your spot all the time, or that's your spot, this is where you're gonna go and you go right in there. Any further than that, as far as testimony in that, that'll be the civil engineer.
Okay, and so I had questions and concerns that, in part, I actually wanna defer and make sure that other professionals can speak on it in regard to the parking space size and some of the layout concerns.
Well, all the parking spaces that we have right now are 9 by 18. I believe there's 2 parking spaces, and those are these parking spaces here, one here, and one here that are shy of the 9 by 18. But in every other instance, we're gonna make those parking spaces 9 by 18. I believe our engineer has a little bit of a tight space here. We're gonna make sure that we have the 18 full depth and the 24, so we can meet our SIS standards.
Okay, so I think there were 5 spaces with a 17-foot length, and those will be eliminated, not
They'll-
eliminated, but they'll be enlarged.
Right. They will comply.
Okay,
So we basically made it up with just 2 parking spaces that are less than the 9 by 18.
and your parking garage is controlled access, right, with a key card or something along those lines?
Yeah.
I had some questions regarding, and comments regarding landscape and lighting design, but I feel like that's not you, okay.
Not that bright a guy.
And then, let's see.
That's that.
Like I said, I'm not that bright a guy.
And then you may have answered this during your testimony, I'm sorry, but can you share or remind me of the color, the finish of some of the metal doors along the building? So I'm thinking about the stair doors, the roll-up doors, and how those will complement the rest of the architecture.
So what we're trying to do is comply with the metal of the window, so it'll probably be black.
Yep.
So the exit doors, which are gonna be hollow metal doors, will probably be black.
Okay. Okay. And I had raised I heard your testimony, but just for the board's edification, I had raised some questions. I had asked for testimony, I think is a better way to put it, in regard to the Global Agways architectural standards that are included in the redevelopment plan. And a lot of, I just wanted to ask about a couple items that we can get on the record that are particularly pointed in here. So for example, it talks in here about the depth of a window.
Could you tell me which form that is?
Yeah, it is. It's page, hold on, it's page 14. And
I don't have 13 pages.
You've only got 13 pages under your review. Are you talking about your review letter, or are you talking about? the
Oh, no,
redevelopment?
I'm sorry, I meant the redevelopment.
Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. So let's see, yeah, so item 10 on page 14 of the redevelopment plan talks about requirement to recess windows, specifically that a minimum of 4 inches from the facade. Can you confirm compliance?
So the brick of, where the brick is, yes, we will have it recessed back. The other materials, they're not as thick, and we were trying to get, shadow lines and differences in the view of the building. So those will probably be about 2 inches. But if you take the brick as the overall plane of the building, yes, all the windows would be recessed back 4 inches.
So, I'm sorry, so yeah, I hear the conclusion that you're compliant, but just tell me again, there's 4 inches of the brick, but the 2 inches of the other material.
So when we go to the other material,
Mhm.
those materials are applied to obviously the backup, whatever that backup will end up being, those materials are probably about 2 inches thick. So when we have those materials, the windows are recessed 2 inches.
So does it go with the brick, the materials, and then the glass?
Yes.
Between the glass and the brick, you're at 4 inches? So
4 inches.
Okay, I think that's compliant then.
Okay, thank you.
And then there's another item I wanted to get some testimony on in here. It's item 12 on that same page. Maximum length of any visible continuous roof line shall not exceed 100 feet. And visible roof line segment shall vary in height by at least 4 feet.
We'll get there. So if you look at that elevation, you're gonna see how we go up and down with the elements that we have. Okay, it's not just the wrapper wall, but it's also the elements. So you do have that up and down and the breaking of that long facade. That I think that's what the redevelopment plan calls for. So I think we do comply. And like I said, all elevations of the two buildings are all the same. They have the same type of detail and design. Emphasis on, so they will all look like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I think my final question is, yeah, you mentioned that the patio, which faces Main Street, will be used for sort of just passive outdoor enjoyment by the
Yes,
residents of the
yes.
building. Given the fact that it's so prominent on the building, I would ask that furniture details be provided as a condition of any approval that the board might grant, just so that we can take a look and confirm appropriateness.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were not thinking of actually having furniture because that would be more or a fitness area spill out, per se. So it wasn't like we're gonna have tables and chairs or anything like that. It was just for that sort of the component of that amenity space.
So folks wouldn't be able to sit there and enjoy the outdoors?
If you, I guess if you're at the gym, yeah. Otherwise you have to walk through the gym. We'll submit something. It wasn't the intent of that. It's not that large that can accommodate that as well as the gym, but we'll show something just.
Okay, and be clear, I'm not asking for the addition of outdoor furniture. That's not my point. But if it's gonna be there, if it's gonna be prominent, I think the board ought to have an opportunity to review at a minimum as part of any conditions of approval.
Yeah, we'll get you that.
And that's all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Bob, do you have anything for the and for our?
Yeah, I had three, that's two of them though. Emergency generators, building can have them, and where would they be?
We actually don't need it by code, but the client has decided that, we're gonna put emergency generators, they'll be on the roof, there'll be gas fire. Again, they'll be, screened off so that you don't see it, as well as, the noise is mitigated.
Do you have any idea what size they are?
No, not at all, not at this point.
Okay, do you have anything there?
I just have one.
Go ahead.
Can you confirm that the 42 spaces that are not in the garages would be unassigned?
Will be unassigned.
Unassigned, the ones, the surface spots, and goes to the RSI as visitor
So the
parking
visitor-
requirement.
I would say we could do that, right? I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue.
Thank you.
Okay, so members of the board with questions for the architect on testimony given. I'm gonna start at this end and see if we can go down here. No, Brian.
Okay, that'll start with me. Thanks. I have three general groups of questions about your testimony. One is the first group is on the environmental constraints you mentioned. The second is on the amenities and the use of space. And the third is more on the design inspiration. On the first one is, you mentioned that there were wetland and flood hazard areas in the property. My question is best directed toward you, more the engineer. I have pretty specific questions.
If it's specific.
I think it's probably for the engineer.
Okay, I'll hold those to your engineer. Okay, so the amenities and use in space. We were talking about the multi-purpose rooms and I'm trying to envision how are those just going to be just empty available rooms for tenant use? Or are these going to be, say, like game rooms, like billiard tables set up or TVs, or is this more of just a passive lounge area?
So, well, what you just described, aside from, the pool table and things like that, it's passive area. We haven't really gotten down to the detail with the owners of what they want to do. I see it more as a large living room area where people can get together, watch a game, watch New Year's Eve, more than anything else. I'm not sure that once you do that, that you can fit even a pool table. So it's basically just a large living room so that the tenants can congregate and just meet.
Okay. And on the, you had briefly talked about the gym patio that fronts North Main Street. Is there any other outdoor communal space, either surface level or on rooftop?
We have not put a rooftop on this building. That was a requirement from our client. Again, we could revisit that. But no, aside from that and whatever we could do in the back of the building B, where we have some space that is not wetlands, no, that's the only space that we have.
Okay, so is there any outdoor, say, patio or picnic or grill space? For example, do you anticipate having outdoor grills set up for residential use?
There really isn't space to do that.
Okay. And one quick clarification before going to design. Are these all rentals or owner occupied? Right, how's that happen to determine that?
Rentals.
Oh, okay, 100% rentals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, as of now, they are all rentals.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got it.
Okay, and let's see, and on the design, you were, speaking early on about the industrial concept look. You said the 1890s time period. Could you give some examples of how this design complements previous developments in the borough, either historic uses and how it complements any current design or buildings or properties in the borough?
I don't know about any current ones. It's just an industrial look to the building, not necessarily mimicking or copying anything that's in the area. Just a concept of industrial. That's what we've done here, to try to replicate anything that is around. I don't think it would be, respectful to those buildings. So we basically took again, circa 1890s type of building, and this is what we've done here. We're not trying to replicate any building. in the area.
So in your opinion, this would introduce a new or unique design element into the borough itself?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is a modernized 1890s building. Yes, I think this type building typology would be something that, you know, it would be a plus and a benefit to the town.
Okay. And in terms of overall site look, could you discuss any landscaping features, or is that also for the civil engineer? Okay. I believe that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, do you have any questions?
Yes, a couple questions. On the gym deck, the fitness deck, whatever it is that gonna be concrete, or is it gonna be kind of more of a softer surface like they use on some playgrounds, so that if people want to be doing yoga out there, they're not, you know, crunching their tailbone onto the concrete?
Well, you do hard yoga there, Mayor.
I But I do like to sit on the ground.
So at that point, I think you have to bring your yoga mat. To have those type of finishes on the outside, I mean, they're impacted by the weather negatively. So this is gonna be a stone floor, obviously even stone floor, not, you know, your textured stone floor. If you're gonna do yoga, just like you would do yoga inside, indoors, you would have to bring a yoga mat.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next question, and thank you because I recall about 3 years ago an excruciatingly long meeting about windows. For those who are here. So thank you for accommodating those. Are you gonna use like a smart glass in there so that they auto tint at nighttime, or? Because it's like you've got these towers with all that glass, and then people start slapping up curtains from wherever it could really detract. And I'm just wondering if there's been any consideration to using like smart glass in there that, you know.
We haven't gotten to the point yet, but you know, that is a very good point. You do wanna, I mean, these are large windows, right? I mean, you're gonna have a lot of transparency in this building. So you do wanna make sure that, you know, there's a sense of privacy. And not just privacy, but you wanna keep, you know, the sun out from overheating the space. So, yeah, we'll be looking at different types of glass for these windows.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
I have one quick follow-up question to one of the mayor's questions regarding windows. Since the intent is supposed to be, I guess, rentals, do you anticipate, say, specific design requirements for window treatments, or will each tenant be able to select their own window treatments?
We might have to do that, absolutely. Just to get commonality throughout the building if anything happens, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that on all our buildings.
Hannah? Go ahead.
I just wanted to confirm, because it's all this rental, so each unit's gonna have their own washer dryer.
Each unit is gonna have its own washer dryer. All the units will be independent of each other on everything, utilities and everything, yes.
And then, can you just clarify, because I know you mentioned 24/7, you know, like attendance, or what kind of employees are you gonna be having here?
That would be more for the
More so.
owner, ownership than me.
Yeah, but there will be, 24-hour management and a super on site.
Okay,
One
so
of
then,
the units will be occupied by a super.
a super, okay.
Yeah.
And then is there any form of like, I mean, like within the building, within the lobby, like restroom for them, or who aren't necessarily supers, or none of the, I don't know if you would require like any form of public restroom, but is there gonna be anything like that? Just
We're not required to have any public restrooms, but the gym obviously is gonna have restrooms, yeah. So they can use that.
Okay, so it's just in that one building.
Yes.
Okay, that was it.
Susan?
Jose, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
We've met before because
Yes, we have.
I sat on the redevelopment committee for this part of the Agway redevelopment site. So I do appreciate that kind of nod to industrial railroad history that's specific to this area. I think that's something that you had mentioned previously, so I do appreciate that. We had talked about, I know it had to be a year ago, I don't, the last 2 years are kind of blurry, I'm not sure. But I think we did talk about that concern of what that use of that fitness area kind of spill out, as you called it. And Beth's comment about, trying to define what's located there. I think the concern was, and I think maybe even Mayor was on that Zoom meeting as well. I think our concern was coming down Main Street, that we don't see a lot of like kind of random fitness stuff there.
Right.
So having it seems like you might be missing a opportunity there to define it as it's kind of being narrowly defined as fitness spillover as opposed to just common space. So I think I'd ask that maybe that be kind of taken a look at again, but I'm supposed to be asking questions. I just realized that, sorry.
Yes.
I've got both comments and questions.
That was a question. The answer is I will. take a
Will
look
you,
at it.
will you
He says,
reconsider?
he says yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I will.
The redevelopment plan as it was written, that you're kind of referring to over and over again. Do I recall there being a pretty much a laundry list of encouraging sustainable features? And if that's the case, in addition to the green roof, what other specific sustainable features are you incorporating in this design?
So what we do with our buildings, if we make it LEED compliant, not necessarily, silver, register or anything like that, but LEED compliant. And yes, you're gonna have the over insulation of all the walls and roof. You're gonna have the low flow valves on the showers and the low flow toilets, things like that. Yeah, we will go through all the LEED items and then we'll present that hopefully at the next meeting, if you allow us to come back. We'll present that. We'll give you a whole laundry list of what we think we can do for this building.
Great, and as we had discussed, having it certified wasn't necessarily a requirement, but encouraged. Did you look into the possibility of getting it certified by an AHP or one of the other more residential friendly, sustainable programs?
So obviously it's gonna be Energy Star, that we have to.
But that's required by law. I'm
Right,
talking,
right,
did you look into any of the other options?
We have not at this point.
Okay. I encourage you to maybe do so, but
Sure.
like I said, just keep plugging away at that list.
Absolutely, we want to provide a building for, the residents, so that they can be there for a while, and it's just a turnover because it's too expensive to maintain, or, things like that. It's, so yes, we will be looking at that, absolutely.
Okay, how are the EVs handled? You mentioned that there's, I think I'm gonna piggyback on what Jay had said, there's 42 spaces that were not assigned. Does that include those EV spaces, those 42?
The spaces that we're talking about not being assigned, they're all outside.
Yeah, and this might be more civil question, but Jay mentioned it, so I wanna.
Yeah, and all the EV spaces are outside. I mean, that was one of the comments from Mr. McCormick, that he didn't want it inside.
Right.
So all of them will be outside.
So they're basically shared by the residents and people come and go and plug in as they need to, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Susan, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll do a
No,
follow-up.
please, Beth, it's the same subject, go ahead.
So if you have, I'm sorry, how many EV spaces do you have?
We're gonna have 29.
29, right, because it increased. So if you have 25, if you have 20 residents that have EV cars, does that mean? I guess I'm a little concerned about having all the EV parking spaces in an area that's unassigned, knowing that you're likely to have more residents than visitors that will need the parking spaces. And how does that work with the parking distribution on the property?
I'll leave that to traffic and civil.
Yeah, I mean, my inclination is that, while we previously agreed that all 42 spaces outside would not be assigned, I don't know offhand what the number of guest spaces, required number of guest spaces is under RSIS, but there might have to be some level of balance there.
you have to provide within your supply half a space per unit accessible to visitors, so that would be 50.
Okay.
And I was saying that your EV spaces count as 2, and there's
Right.
a bunch of those outside, so that would get your 42
Right.
up to 50, unless you say you only get 10% of them, which would get you to 47. It's a little nutty with the EV
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I think that this is something that we can revisit when civil is up, but, to leave it that there might have to be some balance there of some sort.
It's a particular concern here just because we don't have very much accessible on-site or on-street parking. So it's important that we're able to accommodate all of in particular your residents on the property.
Yeah.
Certainly, but also visitors.
I mean, again, maybe this is real
Yeah,
civil.
we want to say this for the actual
Yeah.
testimony. Yeah.
I had one last question.
Question.
And this was my biggest issue. The towers. The lowering those towers just for the sake of not having to ask for a D variance. As you can see, I don't like it. What does that do architecturally to the vertical massing? I think the entire point of the stronger tower was to say, you have arrived in Flemington, this is our landmark gateway, here we are.
We're hitting right here. I actually started crying when I read her report, so, and I don't cry a lot, but yeah, we had. But we had designed the tall towers with that in mind. I mean, this is a focal point. This is your beacon. This is now, Flemington. This is where you are. If you see the drawings that I came out, and you probably saw because we submitted them.
No, I actually didn't, and I would like the full board to see the impact of just that 10 feet being lower.
It's like, it's like the old joke, she's got no neck, if you recall that. It's like that. It looks like, like something was cut off and it just got crunched out. I would rather have, something that is taller than, let's say, what we have now, and maybe if there's any opposition to the height of the style, which I thought it was something that was very prominent and something that was, I thought as a beacon, as an entrance to the main street and so almost like as a note, this is what the tower is. This is once you get to the tower, make a left, you go downtown, right? We don't really have that now. It's just. It actually looks like a mistake that was made, and one part of the building is a little taller, and it shouldn't be. That's what it looks like.
Okay, but
Yeah,
we have to
we need to
move on to this, but Beth, can you please explain for the members of the board and the members of the public why why this is, we have to tear his heart out?
Why have made the architect?
You don't have to tear us out. We're gonna discuss it more during the comments, but I wanna make sure after Beth does this, we get to the board members online.
I'm getting there.
And we need to get her to stand up.
I'm working on trying to get there, so let's.
Okay, so look, there are two types, just for the board and for the public. When we talk about height, there's a very important distinction. There's a height variance that exceeds 10% of the permitted building height, and there's a height variance that does not exceed that 10%. So with that in mind, when you exceed the height, when you exceed it by 10%, it triggers a D variance, a use variance that the planning board's board of adjustment function can only answer. And it's particularly important here because it's not just, they need a use variance, but more importantly, it actually can't proceed because the redevelopment plan states that you can't have a D variance.
Right.
You can't seek site plan approval with a D variance, you have to go back and seek an amended redevelopment plan. So the height,
I'm getting angry because I know the history of this redevelopment committee. And it's just ridiculous that it just.
Okay, well, let's keep this to questions.
Yes, I'll discuss it during the comments.
So for further information, the building height is regulated in the ordinance. It has a minimum building height of 2 stories, which they're clearly compliant with. But the maximum building height is 4 stories, 45 feet, except that tower elements shall not exceed 50 feet or 3% roof area. So towers are given an additional 5 feet. And what I would, if the board is seeking as much height within the towers as possible, I think that without requiring a D variance, the board can consider whether or not you would like to request that the applicant request a C variance for height in order to give a little bit of additional height to that tower.
Which will bring it up to 55.
54-11.
Oh, right.
Just 10 feet. Yeah, 10 feet or 10%, thank you. So you have a little bit of wiggle room where the board can consider making the request that the applicant requests relief. It wouldn't go to the original 65 feet, but you have another nearly 5 or so feet to play with.
Okay, so let's leave that factually on the table right now. I do want to make sure, we usually take a break at 9, we are past 9, but I want us to stop in a logical space. So members of the board who are remote, and I see Mr. Cook, Mr. Gill, do either one of you got questions, or Mr. Campion? Ty, go ahead.
My only question was, were you looking for, according to my notes, when you were talking about the patio for the gym, were you looking for guidelines as to when that should be open? Did I hear you correctly?
Just as, I mean, we would like to have everything accessible 24/7 to the residents, but understanding that, you don't want to have people out there at like 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. We're looking for some sort of direction as to what you think the time would be.
Okay, I was just curious. I thought I heard you ask that, so I just wanted to double check my notes. And that is, yes, and that is the corner that's on sheet 1 of 9, rendering number 5, right at the corner of Hopewell. And that's what you would, that's what we're talking about, just that patio and that large glass enclosed area.
That is correct.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, Jim, did you have any questions, or Mike have any questions? Jim, you're muted if you're asking something.
I learned to turn myself on for once. The only question I had, I wanted to follow up a little bit on the rental versus possible residential sale. Did I understand them correctly to say that they either hadn't made up their mind or was intended to be all rentals?
Well, as of now, it's intended to be all rentals, but that's not a planning board level question that we can't be pigeonholed in.
Okay, no, that was everything else. I think everybody else covered for me, so I'm okay.
Thank you, and I don't mean to be harsh.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Jim. Okay, so we also, I want to give members of the public an opportunity to ask questions. I'm going to ask if you could stop sharing your screen right now so I can just see a little bit easier folks who are remote.
Hey, Jeff, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mike Campion has a question. He must be having issues or trouble. He just texted me and said, hold on.
He just texted you. Well, we're starting to get into great legal questions here. All right, Mike, if you hit, I'm gonna choose it. Mike, if you're on there, hit raise hand. So I can just make sure you get to ask first. I think that's first. Or star 9 to raise your hand on the phone. That's him, I think.
Yes.
All right, I think I got him on there.
Yeah, there
you go. So Mike, if you've got a question, you should be able to unmute yourself now and ask it.
He's still muted.
You're still muted, Mike. Try now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, a few questions I have. You keep mentioning trash. Does that include trash and recycling?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Are you aware after Ida or during Ida, on your parking, every area was flooded, 4 feet or more water, except for the EV area? Are you aware of that?
This is something for the civil engineer, so when he comes up, you can ask him that question.
Okay, and you did mention Hopewell Ave entrance. Are you aware of, that is a truck route road, and there is a business across the street that has numerous tractor trailer deliveries on Hopewell Ave?
I have seen trailers, yes, I have. Obviously this happens on many streets and many buildings that we do. There's traffic, and we just have to deal with the traffic.
Okay, and sometimes that business does operate 24 hours a day. Just want to make you aware of that. Are you aware of that?
I personally am not.
Okay. And if we do have a lot of snow, what is your plan are you going to haul snow out of the area, the parking areas?
Again, that's it's a site related question. That's for the civil engineer.
Okay, no problem. That's it, Jeff. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we've got everybody on the board having asked their questions. We're going to have questions from members of the public, and then we're going to take our break. That's how we're going, and that way we can then move on to the next witness. I think it's an easier way to do it. I'll beg everyone's indulgence. So that members of the public who wish to ask questions, if you're on Zoom, please click on the raise hand button. I see somebody is trying to put stuff in the Q&A. That is not how we're doing it. I need you to click on raise hand. And if you're in person, raise your hand. Sir, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Brian Wood, 5 Hopewell Avenue. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Okay, so now this is just questions for this witness. So you'll have an additional chance to do statements. I just want to make sure you got that. Okay.
What's your backup plan for the trash when your compactors go down? There's very limited space. There's no way to get a truck in there to get your garbage out. I'm in the business, so I just don't answer that question.
So we'll call you to repair it.
You're gonna have to put dumpsters in, there's no room for dumpsters, and then you're gonna have a health issue with the dumpsters outside.
Right.
So I just thought maybe you should.
So what happens is that in that instance is the occupants of the building will have to bring the trash down into the room.
In the one room?
Into the trash room.
What happens when the trash room overflows?
Well, there's a pickup twice a week.
Oh, and it's a private hauler, so
Yeah.
it can be increased daily if necessary.
I disagree that the design fits with town's historical look. In your towers, I don't think it matches at all with what our look is. To be quite honest, there's no coop piece, there's no roof, there's no Victorian.
I think we're just dealing with questions.
Yeah,
now, right?
yeah. So just for Frank, I want to give you a chance to speak also when we have comments. So we'll leave questions now and then you'll have a chance.
Agro Global Ag has allowed for the commercial communal parking across the street for all the residents in the area. If you had some visitors over, you could park there. We park there. Everybody, machine shop, you can park there. Have you made allowances for that parking to be put someplace on the street for us?
No.
Is that something that, how do we go about making that happen?
Right now, it's questions on the testimony, and so we're hearing the questions, we're hearing the answers, and then the board's going to consider everything that's asked.
And the view from Hopewell Avenue on your entrances, it doesn't really give you a clear picture of any of your pictures, what it's gonna look like over there. Are there gonna be deliveries or doors for deliveries?
Well, we have, if you listen to the testimony, right, and we do have two spaces, one in front of each building, where you're gonna be able to park a truck, and whether it's moving, whether it's UPS or whatever it is, you're gonna have that in front of the building.
Is that gonna be loading docks or just doorway entry?
It's just striped areas.
No, how do you get into the building?
Through the door.
The doorway, not.
Into the lobby.
There's no loading docks, there's no
There's no
garage
docks,
doors.
no docks themselves, no.
Will the facility have gas or electric stoves?
Probably gonna be electric.
And where's all the meters gonna be?
We do have, we do have a utility area underneath each one of the buildings.
So they're not gonna be extra?
Oh, no, not at all, not at all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
That's a good question.
Lois Stewart. Do you have any elevators in this building
We have elevators in both buildings, yes.
so that they would be available to handicapped people who would be able to get to the 35 hours out?
This building is fully accessible to physically impaired people, whether it's handicapped on a wheelchair as a person who can't really walk. So we do have elevators that go to each one of the floors as well as the parking area underneath the buildings.
Okay. And how about, I'm concerned about the handicap parking. You testified that the spaces are gonna be 9 by 18. So if I'm handicapped and need to have a wheelchair and have a lift on my vehicle and all this kind of stuff, I would need more than 9 feet wide to accommodate my capability to maneuver my equipment. What provision are you gonna make for that?
So you're correct, we do need accessible parking, and the first parking space in each one of the buildings has to be what's called a van accessible space. Van accessible, so you have the big van where, you know, the drop, whatever it's called, platform. And that space is actually 8 and 8, so you have an 8-foot parking space, and then you have an 8-foot striped area adjacent to it.
I see.
All right, so that will be your van accessible space. And aside from that, because of the number of parking spaces that we do have more accessible parking spaces, but we do comply with the accessibility code.
And some of those will be in the building and some will be out.
No, I believe all of them are inside the building.
All of the handicap will be inside the building.
When we do buildings, as much as possible, we try to put all the handicap spots inside the building. Or on the color.
Now, I wanted to ask about the open outside parking. How many spaces do you have outside?
Let's see. Building A, we have 33 spaces outside. Building B, we have 9 spaces outside.
I just give you further testimony on the parking from the engineer.
Yeah.
He's gonna put it up, so we could put it up. I'm not trying to be difficult, but there'll be a future opportunity.
But he's the engineer will ask.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to clarify again the height. The 2 buildings, one building has underground parking.
So building A, which is the larger building, that's the one in the corner of Hopewell, okay? That area drops 10 feet from Hopewell down to Fort Walter Forum. So what we did is we used that 10-foot difference to put a parking area underneath the building. So from Hopewell, you see a 3-story building. From Walter Forum, you see a 4-story building. The second building, which is the smaller building, from Walter Forum, you're gonna see, from Hopewell, you're gonna see a 3-story building. It's 2 residential over 1 park. So you're never gonna see any more than a 3-story building from Hopewell.
But the parking is all going to look like it's part of the building and not look like open parking.
Absolutely, we've given the building, right, it's not open, it's not on what's typically called stilts or, you know, open columns. We do have arches, we do have the same break material, all of that coming down to the ground, so the building's gonna look the same from the first floor, from grade all the way up to the top.
And I wanted to ask, what material are you going to be using for those flyover things or whatever you have on the top of the building?
Those elements, it's probably gonna be steel.
So it'll be just steel looking, gray steel.
It's not gonna be gray steel, it's gonna be painted. But yeah, it's gonna look like the old hoists in the old industrial buildings.
And what color would it be painted? Black?
Probably black, I would say. We try to keep all the steel the same color. So, right, thank you.
I do see one person online with a question. Person's name is Jenna Van Holten. I'm gonna allow you to ask your question. If you could unmute yourself and again, state your name and address and question for the architect on the testimony given.
The full address. The testimony, street.
Sure, Jenna Van Holten, 2 Clearbrook Lane. I guess
What town is that?
2 Clearbrook Lane,
And what town?
Flemington, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Yes. So I guess nothing environmental is being answered right now, but I guess architecturally, will this building impair the view of the family who lives across the street?
I'm sorry, will they, what to the view?
There's a family who lives right across the street. You're saying this is a 4-story building. Yeah.
Well, any building you build at, even if it's a 2-story building, is gonna block somebody's view. We don't have a height variance, we don't have any kind of variances on this building.
I can't hear you.
So, yeah, it is active, but this is what can built here by the development.
And I saw that you put another question in the Q&A about an environmental issue, which I think would probably be better for the civil engineer. So if you wouldn't mind holding that question to our next witness. Are there any other, do you have any other questions?
Well, I didn't hear you. Whoever you're muted.
I'm muted.
Well, you will.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, I was gonna say that you have a question in the Q&A about an environmental question, which I'm pretty sure is gonna be testimony covered by the civil engineer. So if you wouldn't mind holding that until we get to that testimony. Do you have any other questions for the architect?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Any other members of the public with questions? Okay, seeing none, we are 28 minutes late from our 9 o'clock break, but that's okay. We're going to take a 10-minute break right now. Please stretch your legs and do whatever else needs doing. And I'm going to pause the recording. We will come back in at 9:40. Okay, we are back in session. It is 9:40 p.m. I will just say, because everyone here on the board is sitting here, we don't have to necessarily do another roll call. But I see Mr. Cook is here, Mr. Hill is here, Mr. Campion are online. Is that kosher? All right, excellent. Excellent. So we have concluded the testimony and questions for the architect, for the applicant. I understand we're going to have the engineer. And again, just for members of the public, our rules are that the meeting ends at 11. We do not want to bring anything new on past 10:30. We do have a couple of chair items, so I would hope if we could, if your testimony needs to go to the next meeting, that's fine. But at around 10:30, I'm gonna cut off testimony and we'll carry forward if you're not done with direct testimony.
Yeah, that's fine. One question. Mr. Ho is going to testify as a civil site engineer as well as a traffic engineer.
Yep.
Would you like to swear him in as both now, even though we're definitely not going to get to traffic tonight, but would you like to just take care of it?
Let's take care of his qualifications now, and then it'll just be on the record. So.
Okay.
Are you sure the testimony you're about to give us for is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just spell your last name for the record.
Hough, H-O-U-G-H.
Great, thank you so much.
Mr. Hough, you want to call you Eric, right?
I do.
Eric, would you mind giving the board the benefit of your licenses and experience, please?
Yes, I graduated from Rutgers University in 2006 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I have been working at Burton Engineering for over 15 years as a design engineer and as a traffic engineer. And I'm currently licensed in the state of New Jersey. I haven't testified before this board before, but I have before many others in the state of New Jersey, including Newark, Montclair, Howell, among others.
Any questions for qualifications? We're good. So we're going to qualify Mr. Hough as an expert civil engineer as well as traffic engineering. Is that what we're going to?
Correct.
Okay.
Although we're going to start with civil, and I highly doubt we are going to get anywhere close.
Perfectly fine, but we don't have to worry about requalifying down the road. So
Yeah,
we're
we won't
good.
forget next.
That's why we do it now. Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Eric, you are familiar with the Global Agway redevelopment plan and the property at 35 North Main Street?
I am.
Can you please give the board a description of the property, the current conditions, as well as what the applicant is proposing to the site, infrastructure improvements, so on and so forth?
Yes. I can share my screen and I can bring up my submitted civil set now. So do I just click share screen?
Click the green button.
Fine.
And just to clarify for the record, you said submitted, so this has already been submitted to the board previously and marked as part of A1, the application package and everything.
Correct. Okay, we can just start. This is the my cover sheet, marked C 1.1. The property is located at 35 North Main Street at the northeast corner of the Walter E. Thorne Boulevard intersection. The property is block 5, lots 1 and 2. It is zoned in the TC Transition Commercial District, which is governed by the Global Agway Redevelopment Plan. The surroundings in the area to the north is the township of Raritan and the Bushkill Brook. To the east is Hopewell Avenue with residential and some businesses. To the south is North Main Street. And to the west is Walter E. Forum Boulevard and some existing residential developments across the roadway. There's also an existing convenience store located directly across the North Main Street Walter E. Forum intersection. To go over the existing conditions, I can go to my next sheet. The existing property is 3.44 acres. And currently there are 5 buildings on the property. There is one one-story frame building, 2 one-story masonry buildings, and 2 one-story metal buildings. There is an existing 50-space parking lot, which is accessed from Walter E. Forum Boulevard. The existing impervious coverage is 1.42 acres or 41.3% of the lot. The existing driveways, there is one existing 2-way driveway off of Walter E. Forum Boulevard, which has a 80-foot curb opening. And there are 5 existing drop curbs along the Hopewell Avenue frontage, providing parking in front of the existing building. The topography of the site is relatively flat with a high portion on the southeast side of the property at approximately elevation 150. The site slopes down towards the existing drainage ditch located on the north side along Walter E. Forum Boulevard. To go over the proposed plan.
Before we go there, there have been a number of questions already about the environmental constraints and drainage on the site. And I'm not asking you to go into the proposed drainage, proposed drainage infrastructure improvements. But can you discuss the wetlands and the drainage culverts that exist?
Yeah, I can. I pulled up my my site plan here to go over the environmental constraints. Because of the Bushkill Creek and a tributary here that leads into the existing drainage ditch that was previously discussed, there are two constraints. We have 50-foot transition areas from wetlands, which can be seen where my cursor is going around here and on the other side as well. And we have riparian buffers. Now, you can see here we have a 150-foot riparian buffer and a 25-foot riparian buffer. We did have a pre-application meeting with the DOT in 2020, where we wanted to confirm what riparian buffer to use. And from that pre-application meeting, it was confirmed by them that we can apply the 25-foot riparian buffer, mainly due to the current development. It's disturbed at this point, so it qualifies for the 25-foot riparian buffer. So that's what was the restrictions in the back area, and we laid out the building accordingly. If I may, I can bring up a landscape rendering to go over the proposed site plan. Yeah, stop
sharing and then reshare.
Yeah. And then this is not part of the submission, so there should be a new.
So this will be A8. And then Eric, if you could just give us the title, the date, and any revision dates.
Yes, it's titled The Landscape Rendering. And it is dated today, 3/22/22.
Thank you.
And this is just a colorized site plan. Basically, it's easier to present this because it shows all the landscape areas and a nice colored rendering of where the building is in respect to the landscape areas as well. So it's proposed to remove all the existing buildings and parking area to construct the 2 multi-family residential buildings. Building A is a 4-story residential building consisting of 61 units located along North Main Street in between Hopewell Avenue and Walter E. Forum Boulevard. Building B is a 3-story residential building consisting of 39 units located further into the rear of the property. These buildings are located to comply with the redevelopment plan requirements for setbacks and are offset 20 feet from Walter E. Forum Boulevard, 10 feet from North Main Street, and 5 feet from Hopewell Avenue. Access is provided via 4 proposed driveways along Hopewell Avenue and 1 exit-only driveway exiting onto Walter E. Forum Boulevard. There will be 2 two-way driveways for the service parking in front of Building A. There will be 1 center driveway which provides access to the service parking in front of Building B, as well as the garage entrance for Building A and leading to the exit-only driveway onto Walter E. Forum Boulevard. The current submitted plans show the exit-only lane width to be 14 feet wide. But as shown on this rendering, it can be widened to 20 feet. We did this as part of our coordination with the fire marshal. He wanted to widen that exit-only driveway. And this rendering shows that this is how we would lay it out, and that can be done, and that exit driveway can be 20 feet wide. There's also the final access driveway is a 2-way driveway providing access to the service parking in front of Building B, as well as the parking garage entrance for Building B. Sidewalks provided. We're proposing new sidewalks along Walter E. Forum Boulevard, as well as new sidewalks along the frontage of Hopewell Avenue. We will have a pedestrian sidewalk along the center aisle which allows pedestrians to walk from Hopewell Avenue across the site to Walter E. Forum Boulevard. We also have sidewalks rather, around the surface parking areas. The submitted plans have sidewalk widths that aren't compliant to RSIS, which is 6 feet wide. But while preparing this, we showed that we can widen the sidewalks in the surface, around the surface parking. Right now, this rendering shows most of the sidewalks to be 6 foot wide, including the sidewalks in front of the entrances as well as the center aisle. And we would have to make small adjustments, but we can comply with 6 foot sidewalks where necessary. We will have to make some revisions to do that, but we can comply with that. Also, we do have 10 by 30 loading zones provided in front of each building in anticipation of deliveries and for residents moving in and out. One location is provided in front of building A, and the other loading zone location is provided in front of building B. We do not anticipate trucks larger than an SU-30 box truck using these loading zones. As far as the required parking, as per the residential site plan improvement standards, RSIS, for a mid-rise / garden apartment, 1.8 spaces per 1 bedroom unit is required. 2.0 spaces per 2 bedroom unit is required, and 2.1 spaces per 3 bedroom unit is required, for a total of 193 spaces required for the proposed development. We will be providing a total of 174 parking spaces for the site, including 108 spaces on the building A side of the property and 66 spaces on the building B side of the property. To break that down a little further, the building A surface parking, there will be 33 spaces provided. In the garage of building A, there are 75 spaces provided. And in the surface spaces for building B, there will be 9 spaces provided. And in the parking garage for building B, there will be 57 spaces provided. As previously discussed, our plans currently show 21 electrical vehicle supply equipment, EVSE spaces proposed. And according to recent state regulations, the EV spaces can be counted as 2 for the purpose of complying with the required parking, resulting in no more than 10%. So when accounting for this, 19 of the EV spaces can be counted as 2, which will bring the total amount of spaces to 193 spaces, which complies to RSIS standards. As I said, right now we have 21 EV spaces shown on our plan, and they're all located in the surface parking locations. As you can see here, these symbols indicate where we currently show the EV spaces. So all these are EV, and on the other side, all of these parkings are EV. We did say we would comply with the 29 required, so we will be adding 8 more EV spaces. And I would say we can do that. We can make these 4 EV, and we can make 4 out of these 7 spaces EV spaces. As far as the parking is concerned, another a source is the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE. According to the ITE Parking Generation 5th edition, the average peak parking demand for a multifamily housing mid-rise is 1.32 vehicles per dwelling unit. The proposed 100-unit residential development would require a total of 132 spaces according to ITE, where we have 174 actual spaces proposed. I can get into grading and drainage. I'll go back to my other site plan set for that, so I'm gonna stop sharing this. Go to my site plan. All right, the impervious area as a result of the proposed development will increase from 1.42 acres to 1.78 acres, which increases the impervious coverage from 41.3% to 53%. Due to the increase in impervious surface, detention will be required to reduce the proposed runoff. We will have 2 basins proposed at this time, one in front of building A and the other one behind building B. These will discharge into the existing streams on the north side of the property. The proposed grading is generally flat with the center aisle sloping down from Hopewell Avenue to the west towards Walter Ferrum Boulevard. Utilities, the proposed utilities have been coordinated with the township engineer and will connect to the existing services in Hopewell Avenue, including sanitary, water, gas, and electric. I would like to say, due to the existing conditions of the sanitary line, as per our discussions, we've been coordinating with the sewer and water department for a couple of years now. It was recommended to use pumps for the proposed sanitary laterals, which we have provided on our plans. And we are currently in the process of obtaining approval from the Flemington Service and Water Department. But since they're well aware of this project, and since we've been coordinating for a couple of years now, I don't foresee any issues, but we will be finalizing approval for connection. As far as landscape and lighting, I think it might be best to go back, sorry about flip-flopping, but I think I'm gonna go back to the landscape render. The proposed landscaping will consist of, well, it used to be 16 trees located along Walter E. Ferrum Boulevard and Hopewell Avenue. That number has increased because we did show additional street trees extending the length of the frontage as per, I believe that was a comment in the planner's letter. So this rendering does depict that we can extend the street trees along the entire frontage. There was also a comment that there appears to be 2 existing trees along the Walter E. Ferrum Boulevard that wasn't picked up by our survey. They're in this general location. I was at the site today. Because they're all set from the curb a few feet, I believe they're going to fall where the proposed sidewalk is. So at this point, I would say we're gonna replace those with the new street trees. But if they don't fall in that, we can try to maintain them and work around it. But at this point, I would say those would be replaced. We have 3 ornamental trees also located within the site, 2 being on either side of the exit driveway, as I'm indicating here, and the third being located on the east side of the proposed site driveway to building B. We also have a decent amount of shrubbery proposed located around the buildings and along the frontage of Walter E. Forum Boulevard and along the frontage of North Main Street. We also have a line of evergreen shrubs proposed on the northeast side of building B along the property line. Proposed lighting, we have 3 LED area light fixtures proposed. These are located in the surface parking area for building A, and we have 2 additional area lights proposed in the surface parking area for building B. 2 additional area lights are proposed along the center driveway between the buildings as well. There will be a total of 12 wall-mounted building lights, mostly around located around the surface parking area and the center driveway. The proposed lighting will have an average of 2.59 foot candles with a max of 9.84 at the garage entrance of building A. Both the engineering and planning review letters indicate that the maximum levels are much lower than what we're providing, so we will need to update plans to try to conform with the Borough Code's standards.
There won't be any issues complying with the code though, right?
I don't foresee any, but we would have to resubmit plans for that. And that's really my direct testimony for civil, and if we're not getting into traffic, I can stop there.
Yeah, I have a question. There was there's a comment that I'm sure Mr. Clerical is going to bring up about the boring for stormwater management pits.
Yes, one of our detention basins has to be relocated to the west. The one in front of building A conflicts with the garage level, so that's gonna have to be moved to the west. So once, we're gonna have to redesign the drainage and resubmit plans, but as we determine the exact location of the detention basin, we're going to also go back out there to do additional borings in the proper location.
There's also a comment about DEP permits.
Yes, we are currently under review with the DEP, and we definitely need to get that permit as a part of conditional part of approval.
I'm sure that Mr. Clerical in particular is going to have a number of questions, but same question that I asked of the architect. Of all the review letters, you've reviewed all the review letters, correct?
Yes.
And there is nothing in any of the review letters that we will not be able to comply with?
No,
correct?
We will eventually be able to comply with.
And we'll work with the board professionals
Yes.
to their satisfaction on everything?
So, or would you prefer us to do questions about the civil engineering testimony and then just do parking later, or do you want to do your direct testimony on the parking? How do you want to proceed?
Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference. I can go through the traffic impact.
Why don't we do that? That way.
I'm just looking at timing, and I think because there's gonna be a number of questions on the civil stuff, I'm thinking if you could give all of your testimony now, and then maybe we then continue and then dive into the review letters and the questions at the next hearing, that probably would make the most sense.
That's fine by us.
Okay.
Parking and traffic.
Yes. I pretty much went over parking already, but I'll go through the traffic impact. Burton Engineering performed a traffic impact study, which included the following: an inventory of the existing roads and traffic controls, traffic counts along Walter E. Forum Boulevard and North Main Street. An estimate of the traffic to be generated by the project, and then analysis of the impact this traffic will have on local traffic in the area. A study of traffic activity was obtained from the New Jersey Department of Transportation for both Walter E. Forum Boulevard and North Main Street to get the volumes in the area of these roadways. When we were performing the traffic study, I believe we started in 2021 is when I began the traffic study. The existing conditions were the existing traffic volumes were affected by the pandemic. So I got data from New Jersey Department of Transportation, counts on both roadways from previous years under normal conditions, and I built them up to the build year. I think that was the most fair way to get an estimate of the traffic without being affected by the pandemic and the less volume on the roads. We also did a manual count at the Walter E. Forum North Main Street intersection, and these were conducted on Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021, and Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. And this was to determine more of the directional distribution at the intersection and use the built-up volumes that were obtained by the New Jersey Department of Transportation. It was found that the majority of traffic on Walter E. Forum Boulevard travels northbound in the AM peak hour towards Route 31 and southbound in the PM peak hour away from Route 31. As previously discussed, the site will have access driveways along Hopewell Avenue and including a center drive aisle leading to the one-way exit only driveway along Walter E. Forum Boulevard. The amount of traffic to be generated has been determined from data published in the Trip Generation 10th Edition Manual, published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE, using the Multifamily Housing Mid-Rise Land Use Code 221. It is anticipated the site will generate a total of 32 trips in the AM peak hour and 41 trips in the PM peak hour. This site-generated traffic has been dispersed onto the roadway network as per the existing direction distribution and anticipated movements. All entering traffic will utilize the Hopewell Avenue driveways, and the exiting traffic has been split between exiting back onto Hopewell Avenue and utilizing the exit-only driveway on Walter E. Forum Boulevard. After building up the existing traffic volume on the roads and including the site-generated trips, a capacity analysis was performed at the traffic signal located at the Walter E. Forum Boulevard, North Main Street intersection. The overall level of service at the traffic signal was only slightly affected by the proposed development, but as requested from the County of Hunterdon, the signal timing was optimized, creating more green time on the Walter E. Forum approaches. I believe this was around 10 more seconds given to those approaches. So when the signal timing is optimized, along with the addition of the site-generated trips, the overall intersection delay actually improves by 3.3 seconds in the AM peak hour and by 5.6 seconds in the PM peak hour. A capacity analysis has also been performed at the North Main Street Hopewell Avenue intersection. And the intersection was found to be not significantly impacted by the site generated traffic, and no approach level of service is degraded upon completion of the project. And finally, we did a level of service analysis at the proposed exit driveway intersection with Walter E. Forum Boulevard. And the level of services results will be acceptable upon completion of the project there as well. So we also, we received a traffic review letter from McDonough and Ray Associates, which states that land use code 220 should be used since there's only 2 floors of residential in building B. And if we did use that land use code, it would increase the trips generated by 14 in the AM and 15 in the PM. I haven't run the analysis, but it's fair to say that even with the increased trip generation, the level of service impact would be minimal, and the traffic signal would still improve with the optimized timing. That was my traffic impact.
Okay, so normally we would go to questions from our professionals, but given the hour, knowing that there's going to be a number of questions on traffic and specifically on stormwater, I want us to not interrupt those questions by finishing up.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
However,
yeah.
Can I ask the board's professionals if there are any general things based on the testimony that we should take a look at prior to the next meeting?
We can absolutely, we can absolutely do that, but I really and truly would like for that to be no more than 15 minutes.
And that's totally.
I'm trying to respect folks' time there, so Bob, go ahead.
My questions are pretty much all spelled out in the report. Just one thing based, Erica, on your testimony. You said you filed an application with DEP for this project?
For flood, we did, yes.
You have, is that a record with the borough?
I'm not sure. We can submit our application to the
I
borough.
believe it's a statutory requirement. You file a copy of those to the borough. Can you provide a copy of that for our office? So I can see what it is you applied for?
Absolutely.
Fine questions.
Everything else is in the letter, okay.
Okay.
Is Jay, is there anything else that you want to make sure that they're ready for on for the next hearing?
Just 2 items. If I could get a copy of those traffic counts from February of 2021, because they weren't in the report.
Yes, we can provide those. As I said, those were really just for directional distribution, and I used the volume from the DOT count, but we can provide that.
Understood. And then the second thing I just want you to think about is there are 29, once you revise your plan, 29 of the 42 surface parking spaces are going to be EV. And it looks like the sign says EV parking only while charging, which to me implies that the only cars that can go in there are actively charging EV cars. I would like a little, in my personal opinion, a little more flexibility in those spaces.
Yeah,
And I don't want to get into it now, but just that's my personal thought, and I don't, the board's probably gonna have their thoughts.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Beth, is there anything else you wanted to make sure?
I just had a question. You said that you're gonna revise the lighting plan, but is that for our next meeting? Or is that for another date in the future?
We can do it. When would they need to be submitted?
Well, those would be my questions. I mean, it's a lot of technicals. I heard that this one exhibit, they widen driveways, which is fine. Wasn't aware of that. And you say you said you could pretty much address dimensionally all the comments and things. It would be very helpful if there was maybe not a fully engineered plan, but some sort of a revised concept to show how you're doing that, and maybe a point-by-point response that this is what we can do, or this is what we have done. You know, we don't have to go into the weeds with a lot of detail, but something of record in advance of the meeting, so we're not here at the meeting trying to figure out, yeah, that works, or no, that doesn't work, but oh, yeah, you solved that problem, you created 2 other problems, you know, that kind of thing.
So, you know, our next meeting would be on April 12th.
Which is 3 weeks.
Which is 3 weeks because of the way of the quirks of the calendar. So there's a little bit of extra time there. If in the next,
I would say if they could submit those revised plans at least 10 days before.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much revisions to the overall site plan versus a exhibit that they'd be bringing to the meeting,
Right.
so I would say by the first.
is that something that's possible?
Oh, it's possible.
Did I not sound confident?
Scary on that one.
We've been doing this long enough and not asked the question. Okay, yeah, because it would be of a substantive enough nature that it would also facilitate, as Bob was suggesting, would facilitate the questions in the hearing to have the most current versions that incorporates all this stuff, so we all know what we're talking about. So, okay.
One more thing, I know you've been having conversations with the fire marshal. Was his, was the requirement to not have EV spaces under the building a code issue or a preference issue?
That was his recommendation that I understand.
It seems to be a preference issue.
Can we get clarification on what the code requires on that one?
I know they're in the Berkshire County parking garage.
Yeah.
In fact, so I don't think there's a code, I don't know, but.
So maybe we could have some testimony. I know that you're trying to comply with the fire marshal's letter, and we appreciate that. We absolutely appreciate the complexity there. If we can get some testimony about code and preference, that would be, I think, helpful in the board, especially because of this question of the number of spaces with visitor parking and the EV parking that have been brought up. I think if we can get some more clarity, I think that would be helpful for all of us.
Well, at some point, maybe this might be the case, we're gonna have an application where the parking is, the required parking is almost all gonna be provided within a garage. And we have a statutory requirement that says X number of those spaces have to be EV, so there's gonna be a clash at some point.
Well, again, this is
Maybe-
why,
maybe, I
this
don't
is
know.
why I want testimony on code and preference, right? I want to make a distinction there.
It might be a situation where if you're gonna put them in the building, you have to do something else, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
it's a completely valid question. It goes to my balance point earlier about everything, so we'll absolutely take a look at it and have a plan and the law next time.
Is there anything else that you need to be ready for the continuation on our next meeting?
I have to resubmit.
Okay, can you
Yeah.
yeah, our architect's gonna resubmit as well. I don't think there's anything else we need at this point.
Okay, so what we're gonna do then is, we're gonna continue our public hearing to our next meeting, April 12th, 2022, 7 p.m. in this room with virtual option. No further notice needed, with the understanding that by April 1st, which is a Friday, nice and convenient, we could get the other stuff in to make sure that we've got enough time for it to be reviewed. So, all right, and we will kick off with questions on both engineering and traffic for the, civil engineering and traffic questions. We'll go through the professionals letters, and then we'll do board questions and public questions, and then we'll go from there. Okay,
Very good.
all right, thank
for your
you.
time tonight.
Thank you.
All right,
Take care, everyone.
we are moving right along with the agenda. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing this. Number 9 is chair items. So while folks from Captiva are leaving, our next meeting is April 12th. We will obviously have the continuation of that hearing. Is there anything else?
You wanna take that? Is that what
I
you're?
want to take it and replace a couple of the materials.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and take this. It's been sitting in the closet for a few years.
Thank you.
What happens when you come back from remote? So-
Yeah.
Is there anything else scheduled for April 12th? No, okay, so I'm hoping that we'll get the bulk of the rest of the testimony, questions and discussion for the next meeting.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything else on the agenda.
I think we've made very good progress tonight. I'm very pleased. with the
Yeah, so I
progress.
think you'll have most of the meeting.
Great.
Next week, just so you know that.
Okay, very good. So, yeah.
3 weeks, sorry.
3 weeks, April 12th.
You know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Right, April 12th. Okay.
Okay, thanks again, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
All right, also under chair items, I wanted to say for the record, it's awfully nice to have you back in person. You're here. It's awfully nice to see all of your faces unmasked on screen, except for, Todd, Jim, and Mike, but we'll get you here. As you can. There was a question, I want to get, Beth, I'm gonna ask you now, even though it's kind of like professional report, can you give us an update on master plan?
Yeah, definitely. So we've done a subcommittee meeting and so all that attended and we talked, it was just really a kickoff meeting. But what is underway right now is putting together sort of an existing conditions portion of the master plan so that we can all gain an understanding about what are the existing conditions in the borough, because that will certainly serve as a foundation for recommendations in the master plan. So that's what's underway. The other thing that is underway is designing public participation, because that's certainly something that we need to make sure that we pay proper attention to. And so deliverables for the subcommittee are this existing conditions information as well as public participation information so that we can set the course. Well, for the public participation, we can set the course for how that's going to work for the master plan.
Would you mind just going over what our homework was for the subcommittee?
Oh, I would love to. The homework for the subcommittee was to, I had asked, let me just find this to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I know I had asked for information on the previous stakeholder meeting, folks, for our re-exam. Susan, I know you gave me that information.
Yeah,
So
I know there was more to that though. So I need to look at that.
It was
There
also,
more.
it was
That just
also,
the preliminary list.
it was also, any big ideas that we had, the things that we paid attention to.
What stakeholders, who are the important stakeholders in the community? Stakeholders are not necessarily individuals, but they're those that maybe, that run prominent businesses, prominent organizations, prominent landowners in the community. And then the second item is what topics do you think are important for the master plan? So what are the priorities that the master plan needs to address? So those are the two pieces of homework.
And you sent us that email?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm just trying to.
Oh, yeah, no,
You would like to.
you can fly.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right,
When do you, I just have a quick question for Beth, actually, on that. When do you anticipate like the public participation and stakeholder like interviews would take place, like spring, summer, fall, like globally?
Yes, early summer.
Okay.
late spring, early summer, I think is what we kind of sketched out. We don't want to, we actually, I know CAPT is a complex application, but we actually have a little bit of a window here to kind of get some good work done. So I want to take advantage of that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Jeff?
Yeah, Jim, please.
One question, for the traffic for Jay and Mike and I, is that in tune now with the master plan? I mean, are we ready to go on that? On traffic and parking?
Yeah, so this is, Beth is driving the bus, so.
Okay.
Coordinate.
I'll talk to the driver.
Yeah, let's coordinate.
Yeah, absolutely.
When she needs that part, that's when she'll pull you in.
Yeah, but I need to get a little bit of heads up on it because it does take a bit of time for us to actually flesh it out.
Right, and you got the time, we'll make sure that you're looped in with enough notice there.
Thank you.
All right. That's what I have. Anybody, any other chair issues, any chair items?
I did get an email from Skylar Bird and.
Yes, thank
just
you.
to set up a, meeting with professionals and subcommittee.
It's, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
Technical review committee for 144 Main.
Can we get one other person? Not that
We
I don't
want
like
quorum.
you.
We don't want
I
quorum.
don't want a quorum. I just want one other person that has never experienced the technical review committee before, because there's a lot of newbies.
I'm gonna recommend you use Tony for that. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah,
Just
that
volunteer.
would be
All right,
great.
fine. You know what? Well, I'm looking, all right, I'll call full Tony, that's fine, full Tony. That's
Thank
fine.
you.
It's the reason I volunteered.
Yeah.
I'm sure of that, yeah, I'm sure.
Yes, you know. All right.
Sorry, Tony.
No, it's, you're right, you're gonna people.
I just want somebody else to experience a technical review committee, because it's not all that often that we get the opportunity to do it, or we don't have like a D variance that would hinder us being able to do that.
All right, Anything else?
No, that's.
I know.
All right.
Did you get
Chair,
that?
can I add
Yeah.
one more item for my list of items?
Yes,
And actually, I realize I'm not sure you're on professional reports, but if you want me to,
I was gonna get there in a second, but you're talking, so go ahead.
I'm
That's fine.
sorry. It's just in-person stuff.
We're not used to it.
Getting used to it. There was also a site meeting or a meeting with a potential development for 37 Line Street. So that was just a site meeting with Bob and I and their professionals to review what they were looking at. So there's no big news to announce. They're looking at redevelopment of the site, small R, so to speak. And I would expect that we're gonna see an application at some point, although there was a recommendation that they do a technical review committee as well. So hopefully they will reach out and that will start the process.
That'd be great. I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, can I get a motion for the bills? Were there bills? I didn't see, were there bills?
There were, I sent out an email, late today, I got a few,
That's okay.
or email, you know.
So moved to audit the bills. Cook.
Second.
Open up and down.
Y'all are home, like, you're rushing
Well
through.
done, guys.
Now we're waking up.
Call the roll, please. Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Driver,
Yes.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mr. Joshua, Mrs. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Budney,
Yes.
Ms. Weitzman. Yes. Mr. Parker
Yes.
and Mr. Levitt.
Yes.
Okay, now I was getting professional reports, so you're good?
I have nothing else.
Karen, do you have anything?
I don't.
Just want to mention that the state is right now going through the process of updating the stormwater permit requirements for the borough. I'm sure the borough engineer is aware of it. You are updating the master plan. I believe the borough is going to have a requirement to update the stormwater plan as part of that. I'm not sure how that blends in, but I just want to, only reason I mentioned that was on a webinar today about it, so.
All right, so let's add that to our, let's be proactive on that, given all the problems we've had. with
Yeah, I'm
stormwater.
gonna coordinate with Jerry Harris on that.
Yeah, let's make sure we're proactive. Okay. Jay, do you have anything else?
Nothing for me, Jeff.
All right.
Mr. Chair, really quickly,
Yes.
there was a question that came up in the reports for the last application that inquired as to whether or not there could be relief requested from the state EV requirements. The way that it's worded, just for future, so everyone's aware, the way that the model ordinance and the portions of the model ordinance that the municipalities must adopt states that the numerical requirements shall be a condition of any site plan approval. Meaning there's no wiggle room, it's not a bulk issue, you can grant variances or waivers from. And then I confirmed that specifically with the DCA, just to make sure that my reading was correct, and it is. So going forward, that's not something that can be altered in any way, shape, or form, and it must be a condition.
Okay.
Is that info in the EV that or it was 10-page
That best practices
you
that I
sent?
sent? No.
That wasn't in there.
It
I
wasn't
read
in that.
over it.
No, no, it wasn't in that.
But there is ordinance.
At least I didn't see it
suggestions in
there. There is,
Yeah.
but it's actually in the language of the model ordinance itself, section D, again, the part that can't be changed.
Uh-huh.
And then they confirmed it, so, but that was the first place I looked for some guidance.
Yeah, because it's a really
It was great, right?
summary. If
Yep.
anybody has
Yep.
not read that yet, make sure you read
Yep.
it. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
And we should probably put that on the master plan list and.
Well, no, I mean, look,
It's gonna have to be an ordinance.
the reality is, we're gonna have, parking is gonna be made ready, if not fully the period, it's gonna be a hard stop. I mean, that's just where the statute's gonna be, so we're gonna have no choice. Okay, good.
Okay.
Any need for executive session? Nope. Okay, got a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any objection?
Nope.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.